Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. And 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. You can call in with whatever is on your mind. That's the whole point of Free Talk Live. We talk about whatever we want. You talk about whatever you want. You can change the subject. You can tell us we're wrong about what we're saying. It's up to you. That's the point of Free Talk Live. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Mr. Penguin.
And Angelo.
And I know that they talked about it yesterday, but I wasn't on the show yesterday. And obviously, very obviously, the big news in the new year is that Trump and the United States government goons invaded Venezuela on the ground and actually kidnapped Maduro, the president, the dictator, to be fair, in his sleep. The communist dictator, to be fair. And there are a lot of libertarians saying, is it possible to do anything against the NAP when the subject is a communist? It's a good question.
Yeah. I think the short answer is the NAP is the NAP, right? So no, you can't really justify that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Well,
because the communist hasn't really taken any that communist dictator didn't take anything from you, right? Like you haven't been aggressed upon.
If you're if you have a kid with you or anybody else, okay, if you have a friend, let's make it not your kid to just make it one layer away. You have a friend and you're out in public and that friend is about to get stabbed. Do you have the right to use force against the stabber? I think you do.
Yeah, because it's as long as it's not consensual.
Because the because the NAP means that this is what I mean to say. Self-defense is using force against somebody to defend yourself, another, or your property.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I guess you could say that they were moving in defense of Venezuelan people, but are the Venezuelan people actually free?
I think one, they need to actually ask you, and two, I think you're right. They'd have to be coming in to do something better, and they're not. That's not going to get any more. That's where I'm trying to take this. They're not going to make it any more free down there. They're not going to actually be less under a dictatorship.
Okay, so you're not violating the NAP if you're in Venezuela and you take over, right? Because you're defending yourself against other violent actors.
Yeah, if you're Venezuelan, you're right.
The United States isn't being.
But no, we just changed the subject. You changed the goalpost because I just made we all agreed that you can. Let's say it's not your friend. It's a random person on the street. You see them about to be stabbed. Is it against the NAP to defend that person? No.
No, right.
So it's like almost there. But the thing is, I don't think what they're going to do in the end is going to actually help the Venezuelan people.
And there's a difference between, it may be, you may think you have some sort of, moral, duty to do something, but that's not necessarily required by the NAP. You can also choose to do nothing.
Definitely, that's definitely true.
In this particular case, we should do nothing.
I think that we should do nothing too, and the
United States should do nothing, even if we wanted to, if we wanted to do something at an individual level or group, outside of government, I think that would be totally justifiable. But
we'll never be able to because we get stolen from, and because of the fact we get stolen from, it makes everything the United States did an act of aggression against the people that they're stealing from, without their permission. So there's that.
Even ignoring that, right? The United States actually prohibits individuals, Americans, from getting together and taking over another country. So
yeah, there was just like 2 Texas guys who were arrested for planning like a coup on a small island
in Haiti. Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
You heard that too?
I don't know if I heard about that particular
story. This was
like
a couple weeks ago.
But this happens. This does happen every once in a while.
They were like really young. It had to be a situation where an FBI agent was talking to them and telling them, "Hey, you can do this." Like I can't see any other scenario, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, they were like it's like some sub 30-year-olds. They were super young.
Rafts.
They're like 23 and 22 or something.
Yeah.
And they were going to make a raft, take a bunch of guns over to this small island off the coast of Haiti, kill all the men, and take the women for like a harem and like make their own little utopia on the island.
So that's obviously against the NAP in and of itself. But the thing is, if you wanted to do that, take some rafts and guns and go free people on an island and genuinely not hurt anyone other than the aggressors, I think that's not against the NAP, but also what you're saying is like you're not required to.
The difference here is that what they were doing was against the people, and what we're suggesting is against the government. So the actors of the state.
What who was doing is against what those two young people were doing.
Setting up a harem and like
Sounds
taking
like
the women or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, they're basically trying to impose another government.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
On those and use I mean, I don't know to what degree the current government there is doing taking women and abusing them, but
that island, I don't know.
Right,
well, I think the whole point they were going there was because the government was so ineffective. It was probably just ran by a warlord anyways, so they were just going to go steal it from
what two young people just
another.
decide that amongst themselves? I really feel like a FBI agent had to be like, hey,
from Texas too,
like you could just live your life instead, but in a pretty good life in America, young men in Texas, and instead you just decide to throw it away for this. It seems like it reeks of something the FBI would try to say, hey, you should try this. I bet you can get away with it. And then they're like, yeah, we got him. See what I'm saying? I'm not saying I know that.
Yeah, this very much does smell similar. Whenever violence is occurring, you have to ask, well, what's the cause of it, right? Because often it is literally government. The government's actually fabricating that situation. It's not like it doesn't happen independent of government, but it's much more rare than you would think.
Well, I just wanted to make sure people know what we mean by the NAP for a second, and it's a little late, but the NAP is the non-aggression principle. It's the principle that you do not ever initiate aggression against or force against another person, and it can only be justified in self-defense. And I already defined self-defense. Yeah. So if you're wondering what the heck we're talking about, maybe I should have said that from the beginning. But I know you guys already covered, hey, Maduro was captured in his sleep, so I'm not going to read an article that's about that all over again. But I do have to say I told you guys, and I don't know how many people were covering this once a week. Hey, a war is about to start in Venezuela. It's scary. Hey, a war is about. I didn't hear anybody talking about it outside of that. Even on like YouTubers and stuff I watch. You see what I'm saying? I tried to stay on top of it because I felt it coming, and it really did. Ian woke me up at noon one day, unfortunately, and so he calls me and he's like, "Did you hear the news?" So I was like, "What?" And he said, the United States goons went into Venezuela, they kidnapped Maduro in his sleep, and now Trump says the United States is going to run Venezuela. I was like, yeah, exactly how Trump would do that.
That's the thing that I want to know is what their plan is as far as to run Venezuela. Because as I understand it, the leadership is still in power in Venezuela. It's just one man and his wife, basically.
Yeah, they made like a new woman president, right?
Yeah, so they just put they're just gonna put some other, other person.
It is the opposition party. I don't know how good those people are.
There's also, no, I don't think it's the opposition part. That's what
I think it is. Didn't you hear that the new woman they installed is from the opposition party?
They haven't. I don't think they've installed anyone yet.
Okay, I do
right now the vice president
wasn't it the United States saying that they were going to install somebody?
Yeah, well, but they haven't done it yet.
The United States isn't in power. They didn't undermine the.
I don't know if they did it yet, but they've talked about this woman they're going to install. That they're at least teasing to install, and I know that they said she's of the opposition party. Why would they put the same party?
No, that would make sense. But the problem is that they didn't take out the leadership. They only took out the
one guy.
The one guy.
Maduro. I see what you're saying now. So I do have an article specifically about that. So if you guys want to learn more, I want to learn more.
I think we should get into it a bit more. I know I know we talked about it yesterday, but
yeah, I know, but this is getting into it in a different way because
sure.
I want to know, this article from the Wall Street Journal says Trump rolls the dice on nation building with vow to run Venezuela. So let's see how they're going to do that, because that's what a lot of people are asking. It says swift military operation delivers Venezuelan strongman Maduro into custody, though his lieutenants say they remain in charge, like Penguin is saying. So after an audacious overnight operation that captured Venezuelan strongman, I don't know really, I've never heard the term strongman in this way. I guess it means dictator, because that's what he is. Nicolas Maduro, and removed him from power. President Trump on Saturday embraced an open-ended nation-building effort of a kind he once said he would avoid. Trump said the U.S. would run Venezuela, a Latin American country of 29 million people with a faltering economy, for an indefinite period. We're going to run it, essentially, until the proper transition takes place, he said. It provided few details about the White House would take control of the country without putting large numbers of U.S. troops on the ground. I wonder how you're going to do that. But that's kind of nice if they're able to do it that way, as opposed to large numbers of troops on the ground, turning into like Afghanistan, you know?
Yeah.
An
Or
option
Iraq.
he didn't rule out, though. Trump said even less about whether a viable plan was in place for governing Venezuela after deposing its president and sending him to the U.S. to face criminal charges, other than to insist the U.S. And that's another little angle of this I hadn't really thought about. Like, yeah, he's facing criminal charges. I wonder how that's going to go. But this is an open phones show, and somebody's on the phone, so let's go to the phones. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to make sure people know what we mean by the NAP for a second, and there's a little wait, but the NAP is the non-aggression principle. It's the principle that you do not...
You forgot one exception, Bonnie.
What?
You said you cannot initiate force against another person. You forgot the one exception, Bonnie. Children. Oh, and drunk people, too. Oh, how about retards? Oh, maybe to save the earth.
Hold on, he's really stupid, and he just like tries to act like he's gotcha instead of having an honest conversation with someone else.
What does he even
He's
mean?
trying to say that
What is he talking about?
there's an exception, and that he's trying to say that I am wrong about this, and I'm like maybe he's trying to say I'm a hypocrite, because you can under the NAP you can absolutely impose force against another person to protect your property. Your children are your property, in my opinion, so I'm 100% consistent on that, whether you guys agree or whether Skeeter agrees or not. I'm 100% consistent on that. Your children are your property, and if they're going to run in the road and you use force to stop them, it's no sane person would say that's not okay for any reason.
Yeah, I don't think there's an issue with using force against your 35-year-old son.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you can use force against your children, right? You said
that you're acting like there's no. It doesn't end. It
Yeah,
obviously
if my
ends.
35-year-old son's about to jump into the street and I have to tackle him to keep him from
but
hurting
that's not,
himself,
he's trying to make it sound like what I was saying is illogical or immoral. It obviously ends. There are multiple types of property ownership that come to an end, like renting. If you're renting something and it's currently yours and somebody's about to destroy it, you have the right to stop them, right? Or even harm them if they won't stop. Yes, because you're renting it. That doesn't mean it has to be yours permanently, but it's yours for that moment. I don't want to continue talking to Skeeter, and I know that some people find that like, no, she has to argue with him for 30 minutes or it's not a good argument. I really don't care. You make a show where you argue with Skeeter for 30 minutes at a time. Like, I'm not open to it. So I've purposely been not answering him, so he called from a different number. So I said Slow House, California. Sounds like a place he would live. In a slow house for short bus
slow
kids.
house.
So anyways, we were talking about... Do you guys understand how I at least am being consistent on this while Skeeter's trying to claim I'm not?
I think you need to. I think your how do I say this? Your thinking it needs to be thought out a bit more.
No, I think about it way more than you do. I think about it so much more than you do. Like you want to say children should, they 100% from the time they're born own their body 100%, and I say no, that's obviously not possible because a newborn cannot live without their parents.
No. Obviously, a child is dependent.
What do you
on
own more than something that comes out of your body? Like, do you think you own your car more than the thing that grew inside of your body and couldn't exist without you?
I think looking at it in terms of property is the wrong way to look at it.
Then what would you call it?
I don't think that's the right choice word, but I'm not disagreeing with you necessarily, obviously. But
if you had a kid,
yep.
How come I can't? And I can prove that I can give it a better life, and you're not harming it, but I can prove I can give it a better life, and I can prove that it wants to come with me, and it's newborn somehow. I can prove it. How come I can't take it? Why can't I take it?
I don't think the choice.
Well, just answer the question. Why can't I take your child? What is the actual reason? Just because you want to have it, but it wants to go with me. It's your property. That's why I can't take it.
Well,
that's the if all else is not, if everything else is above board, you're not hurting the child. Like somebody can make the case
look,
that
I'm not saying somebody else has a higher claim to take care of that child than you. I just don't think we should be looking at it as property because
the word makes me uncomfortable, and it doesn't make me uncomfortable to think that when I was a baby I was my parents' property. I think it's people oftentimes that have bad experiences with the parents that makes them think like, I don't want to think that. And I understand where they're coming from, but it's not a place of being absolutely like emotions out of the thought process and logical about it. Because like There has to be a reason. I can't take your child. There has to be a reason with a word to it.
You can do what you want with your property. I don't necessarily think a parent has an ultimate, decision-making power as to do whatever they want with their property. They can't just throw a baby in a garbage can after they decide.
And everybody seems to think that destroying your property is the end-all be-all, and then you can't call it property. But I think that there can be different types of property. You can't destroy something you rented, one. And you
don't own the property,
and you could still be. It could still be considered against the NAP if you're just torturing your animals. I know, like Richie Rich doesn't believe that. Well, I disagree with him.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And we've had this argument. Like
the NAP is regarding people, not animals. Like I get what you're saying. There may be other morals that you hold. And sort of the NAP is sort of the lowest one.
Forgetting about the NAP right now, talking about property. Your animals are your property, correct?
Yeah.
They're your property, and still, I think, forgetting about the NAP, you're saying it doesn't apply to animals. I think that if you're just like torturing animals in your yard, skinning animals, and somebody took it from you, I consider that fine. Richie Rich doesn't. Richie Rich says you could never steal somebody's animal from them.
So you're okay with using violence against somebody. I get you.
Violence against somebody when they're using violence against an animal, yes.
Right. Okay.
And most people agree with me on the whole planet. I know that's an argument against...
that probably violates the NAP, but
But you just said it doesn't, because you just said it doesn't apply to animals.
Right, but aren't you saying that you're the one who would be using the violence against somebody else?
Oh, okay, against the person. Yeah. Okay, I thought you were saying something else. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I understand, but you think that I can never use force against someone in that case. You think there's never justifiable reason to use force against someone in that case. I think it's justifiable.
Well, I that's not what I said. What I said was I think that would violate the NAP.
I don't think it would, because there are times that you can use force against someone and it doesn't violate the NAP, yes? And I say in defense of living creatures is fine. And you say no, we disagree on this.
You're taking the NAP and you're sort of extending it.
No, I'm talking about defense.
I'm
talking about defense of a living creature, and you're just saying NAP even though we already said we're not talking about the NAP.
It can be wrong to do like skin animals or torture them or whatever. Right? That can be wrong, but that doesn't necessarily violate the NAP, right?
Okay, but we stopped talking about that. Like forget if that violates the NAP or not. That isn't the part that violates the NAP. It doesn't mean they have to violate the NAP against the animal for me to say that it's right for me to stop them from doing it. So forget the NAP exists. Forget you ever heard about the NAP. The part of this is it okay? Is this justified force that I'm using against them? So maybe you need to know about the NAP for that part. But then you're trying to change it back. Then you're trying. No, it can be under the NAP once I'm saying, can I use the force against them? Because force is justified sometimes, right? But then you try to make it about the NAP again when you're saying the animal part, and that's when it doesn't make any sense, because you just said the NAP doesn't apply against animals. So why isn't it justified? Why is it justified to stop the harm of a human, like let's say full-grown human, but not the harm of an animal? Like, what is the reason? Just because they're human?
Listen. I'm not.
I just want to know your opinion.
Like I'm not trying to give you my opinion so much as what I think what the NAP is, right?
But the NAP is one sentence,
right? And we
have to extrapolate things out of it. We have to.
And I agree. And I think ultimately, look, it's immoral to do certain things, but that doesn't necessarily mean they violate the NAP.
But tell me, why is it that you can use force against somebody to stop them from harming, let's say, a retarded human being? Mm-hmm. Why is that okay? But it's not okay to stop them from harming an animal that is like sometimes more with it than a retarded human being, depending on the retarded human being. My parents have an adopted kid. I think I've seen it.
It's an interesting question.
Just if the answer is, well, one's human, one's not, I do not accept that. Do you see what I'm saying?
I think
because I don't think there's anything inherently better about humans than animals.
And you may have like an argument to sort of extend the NAP or some variation of the NAP, right?
Why would it extend it? Like the NAP is one sentence. We extrapolate all kinds of things out of it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't
see. But then what's aggressing upon an animal?
Right. Here's take a look at it from another perspective, right? Okay, are you going to use violence against somebody who eats meat?
No, because I have said before that I don't think that people.
You might not.
I didn't finish the sentence. I didn't finish what I was saying because there sometimes can be a but. Okay. Or a caveat to things. Like libertarians hate that, but there can be.
But let's continue.
Not everything is black and white. It's not.
Let's continue this thought. And
we do have a caller.
Things aren't black and white. Let me just one more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
So what about the next person to you, right, that takes us a little bit further and says they can use violence because you eat meat against
Let's
you.
say I'm at least getting to have the conversation and they don't just run over to my place where I'm slaughtering cows and stuff and eating them. This is what I would say to them. I would say, I am not just unduly causing harm to them. I believe that you should only eat meat that is killed in the most humane way, that is raised and treated the most humanely, because humans can't live without animals. So, like, it's just the natural order. The other thing is, you know how you said the NAP doesn't agree to, or doesn't apply to animals? Animals don't have the concept of that. An animal will eat another animal. So the NAP isn't harmed when they're just put to death, but I think it is when you're causing long-term harm to an animal. That's different.
When it comes down to it, is that NAP is not the end-all be-all.
Well, it's not, but I'm just saying I think that I could make this argument to somebody, and I have multiple times. Other free staters have agreed to me that I've changed their mind and stuff, that there is a big difference between causing long time, like let's say it's like skinning an animal.
Yeah.
Because of course,
skinning an animal alive.
Yes,
right?
yes,
So
alive.
yeah.
And just quickly killing it to where they die.
These
quickly.
are morals, and you can have other morals, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean you can.
But there has to be a time. You have to find out when somebody can step in and stop it. You think that it's never justified? You would say like that person's being evil, because that's what when you say somebody's aggressing against the NAP, that means they're being evil.
I'm
you
not,
think it's being evil to take a animal away from somebody who's being like maybe they want to keep it alive for a whole year, slowly skinning it.
All I'm saying is I think it would violate the NAP. Whether or not it's the right thing to do, that's another matter. But yeah, I think it violates the NAP.
Okay, so to bring it back to the children, well, maybe we should. Do you want to answer the call first?
Why don't we answer the call?
It's Tom from New Hampshire, and I'm not sure if you're calling about the same topic we're talking about, or if you're wanting to change the subject. What's on your mind, Tom?
I want to talk about the war against Venezuela. It's being waged obviously for oil.
Yeah, I think he's come out and said it's for oil, right? Mostly, or
yeah,
in large part.
Kind of did. He kind of said it was like in order to get back what they stole from us, which sounds crazy, but his reference would be to the oil companies and the land basically that U.S. companies had control of, back 30, 40 years ago.
Well, the oil companies invested in a lot of drilling and stuff down there, and then the Venezuelan government stole all of their property, but that's the way it goes. Just like if you get mugged on the streets of Tijuana, the San Diego police cannot help you because it happened outside their.
We got to talk about taxes after this.
Well, yeah, we can keep you on the line if you want to keep talking about this, Tom, and we can bring it into the conversation about taxes as well. 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live coming up, talking about Venezuela, the non-aggression principle, all kinds of things. More coming up.
A congressman recently revealed that legislation totaling 2,900 pages and involving more than $1 trillion was available to members of Congress for less than 48 hours to study and consider. That's over 60 pages of legislation per hour. Do you think anyone read the entire bill? I'm Jim Babka with DownsizeDC.org. Consider a proposal buried in a 3,200-page, $388 billion bill, which would have empowered committee chairmen or their agents to examine Americans' tax returns. When this horrible provision came to light, no one claimed to know how it got into the bill. One congressman questioned said, "I didn't write it, I didn't approve it, I wasn't even consulted." If your attorney represented you this way, he might be disbarred. But this is how Congress represents you every day. That's why DownsizeDC.org has created the Read the Bills Act. You can force Congress to read their bills before they pass them at DownsizeDC.org.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Tony Waterman. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. He issued the warning in an early morning post to social media, saying the U.S. will come to the rescue of peaceful protesters. Mass demonstrations erupted a week ago in major cities like Tehran, but have since spread to smaller towns as citizens vent their frustration over the worsening economy. At least 6 people have been killed and 17 wounded. It's the biggest threat to Iran's government since 2022, when protests erupted over the death of a young woman who was arrested for allegedly not wearing her hijab correctly. In response to Trump's latest threat, Iran says it will not allow foreign interference in the country. Tensions between Tehran and Washington have intensified in recent weeks. Just on Monday, Trump said he'd order more strikes on Iran if it tries to rebuild its nuclear capabilities after the U.S. destroyed some sites in June. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles held too closely to the ceiling are to blame for the blaze. At least 40 people were killed and more than 100 others were injured, the majority of whom are in intensive care. France is among several European nations treating some of the victims. FSN's Ross Cullen reports.
People who suffered burns in the fatal fire are being looked after in hospitals in Paris and in Lyon, where France's top plastic surgeons are on standby to assist with specialist reconstructive care for burns victims. French citizens were among those injured, and there are still French nationals missing, with several Italians also unaccounted for. Police are working to identify all the victims and investigate how the fire started. It broke out in the Constellation Bar in the Swiss ski resort of Crans-Montana in the early hours of New Year's Day.
Senior Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed building a new high-security prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. FSN's Blake Sifton reports from Tel Aviv.
A delegation led by the Deputy Commissioner of Israel's Prison Service visited a crocodile farm on Thursday to learn about crocodile care and handling. Last week, far-right National Security Minister Ben-Gvir proposed building a new detention facility surrounded by crocodiles to hold Palestinian prisoners jailed for security offenses. He suggested the plan would prevent escapes and act as a deterrent, and said it was inspired by the Alligator Alcatraz detention facility in the Florida Everglades.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Mr. Penguin,
and Angelo.
And I'd like to thank Daniel for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Daniel went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Thanks to Daniel and everyone who supports us. Again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. And we do still have Tom from New Hampshire on the line, and he was calling in about the war in Venezuela. Isn't it a war still? I mean, like, I wonder what...
But they're going to call it a police action.
Geez, a war? I mean, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, honestly. Like, he called it a war.
I think it's probably, it's not a war in the sense that the United States has not declared war.
Yeah, but we didn't declare war in Afghanistan either.
No, and I think it makes it, basically, it's an illegal act based on the people who in power and those who are following those orders.
My brain hadn't even gotten there yet. I hadn't thought about that part. Like, that, did they do the proper order of operations that, like, the Constitution says you have to do in order to capture Maduro?
They said, he says he did it in conjunction with law enforcement. So it's a police action.
Does not have power.
Yeah, they're saying they went to extradite him. They sent him in to arrest him.
Doesn't have authority overseas. He'd have to be working with the Venezuelan government for it to be.
But the DEA, what about the DEA? Don't they have authority over? They don't. Why are they always out in South America anyway?
In working in cooperation with the governments of those countries.
That makes a lot of sense. I don't understand that.
It's the governments of those countries that are doing the arrest and then.
And clearly Maduro would be the government of Venezuela, so you couldn't do that in
this was
conjunction
done
with them.
without the consent of the government of Venezuela. The Venezuelan police would have had to arrest him and then extradite, not the U.S. And the U.S. can go in and help, but they can't. They have no authority within Venezuela.
Well, okay. Well, let's say if there was an opposition government within Venezuela, kind of like a continental Congress that allowed the U.S. to take out Maduro, and they claimed that they were the sovereign controllers, like the anti-communist group of
so there was
Venezuela.
a civil war. You're basically saying there was a civil war in Venezuela, and the U.S. government wants to support one side.
Or, I mean, are they not at odds? I mean, I'm just saying we weren't in a full war with Great Britain when we first made the Continental Congress.
I mean, I think like from a constitutional perspective, you would need to declare war.
I think so too. That's what I've always heard. But let's talk to Tom, because that's what he called in about. Tom, you called it a war. What makes you call it a war in Venezuela?
Well, Trump is wanted in Iran right now on a arrest warrant because he is charged with murdering an Iranian general. Imagine that Iranian forces were to swarm into Washington, D.C. and in the White House and capture, not kidnap, capture and arrest Donald Trump and bring him back to Iran. That's the equivalent of what Trump is doing to Maduro.
Yeah, this is an active war, and I think that's a fair statement. It's just not a legal declaration of war.
And they're talking about, look at all the human rights violations. Yeah, well, the legal drinking age in the District of Columbia is 21. That's a justification to overthrow the federal government, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, if it's just a matter of the Iranian government doesn't have the military power to get into Washington, D.C., and the United States bureaucrats currently still have enough power to pull a stunt like that. But keep in mind, when Trump, what is bothering Trump not only is the nationalization of the oil companies, but that they were not working on the petrodollar, using the United States dollar as the currency for international commerce in petroleum. They were going to be using it, breaking away from that, and the United States bureaucrats really, really, really want all international trade to be transacted on U.S. dollars deposited in United States banks. And the U.S. dollar, by the way, has dropped 38% in value against gold just since January 20th, the day that Donald Trump took office. The highest price I saw during that day on a chart was $27.12 an ounce, and now it's in the 4,300s an ounce. And it's because the dollar has dropped in value. It's not like gold became more valuable. A troy ounce of gold is still 31.10347768 grams of gold. It didn't go up in value. It doesn't go down in value. It's the gold standard. But the dollar has plunged that much just since January of 2025. And they really, really want to keep the gold, the U.S. dollar standard, because they, as they say, roses are red, violets are blue. Taxation is theft, and inflation is too. And so they stole all that money out of all those dollars. They stole 38% of all the dollars in circulation, essentially, by devaluing them. It's just like the ancient kings who would issue coins the same mass as the previous ones, but instead of being solid gold, they diluted them down 40%, 30%, 10%, until it was almost no gold in them. And they ordered everybody to take them, or you're going to be put to death. Well, they're trying to order the Venezuelans to take these dollars or get invaded. And then they're spending your tax money to prop up the U.S. dollar and the profits of banks and financing of the federal debt. Don't call it the national debt. The nation is a community. It's the federal government that is borrowing all that money, by the way.
Yeah, I don't owe anything in the national debt. I agree. It's what they did.
It's by the way, they've been taking 1/7 of my lifetime earnings through the Social Security tax and the employer match. And obviously, it's not like the employer is paying that match. They have to reduce your base pay accordingly.
Yep.
because your labor has to be worth the grand total of everything they're paying for salary and benefits and Social Security and everything.
Yeah, it's also worth pointing out that it's not 1/7. That's just the Social Security part of it. There's way more than 1/7 that they're taking from everybody. It's closer to 90-something%.
I'm filing for Social Security benefits, and the website says, "Oh, well, there's a problem. You have to call us at this number." And get this: when you hear, "How can I help you today?" please say, "Help desk." They want me to babble back to a robot, and I'm not going to babble to a robot. And I sent the Commissioner of Social Security a letter today explaining, I don't go for this babble to the robot nonsense or respond to menu prompts. I wait until the machine gives up and directs the call to a human.
You can press 0 sometimes. Sometimes I just press 0 when I hear a directory and it takes me right to a human.
I just scream representative.
Oh yes, or if I'm on the phone and it's a robot, I just say representative. Talk to a representative. I do the same thing.
I don't babble to the robot. I wait until it connects. And I had a bunch of trash to remove. I called a trash company with a very easy to remember phone number, and they don't answer the phone unless you babble to a robot or navigate menus. So I called another one. Simple enough thing to do. But what can you do when you've got a government bureaucracy forcing people to pay out taxes all your life? And so I wrote this nasty letter to the commissioner. I mailed that out today saying, if your machine had simply directed the call to an agent, I wouldn't be here. I might have gotten this resolved by now, and I wouldn't be sitting here reminding you that if you enjoy that warm feeling you get by making your victims babble to robots, you can get a warmer feeling by pouring gasoline all over yourself and lighting a match. And you might even get a warmer feeling yet if you don't repent of your wicked ways and beg God to forgive you. See, I'm not threatening to do anything to him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What he believes that God might do to him, and that you don't win by inciting my anger, because time is on my side. You are busy, and I'm not. And I have time. The longer it takes, the more...
Every time I get in a fight with somebody on Signal all day and I don't have anything to do all day.
Yeah, the monthly payments go up every month that I have to wait. And then I can have time to look over the chessboard like a merciless chess player, looking for every legal move to make you wish you hadn't pulled this on me. Answer that telephone. Are you happy now? Mailed that to the commissioner and CC U.S. Representative Maggie Goodlander, CC the Northeast Regional Communications Director, the National Communications Director down in Baltimore, and the Office of the Inspector General of Social Security. Send it off to them. I got nothing better to do. I mean, I can send nasty grams out there, and it's just,
This sounds like a form of activism, just annoying government workers all day.
Yeah, the only thing here is I would say that I wouldn't want to be doing it at some random location. I would want to be doing it in New Hampshire specifically, because there's enough other people doing it alone, individually spread out. We achieve nothing, but concentrated, we actually, this does have an effect.
I think if that could be a form of activism, just Free Staters calling New Hampshire government goons all day to irritate them and cause them to spend more money being paid for doing nothing. Like I want to put in a records request every single day about something that doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, I don't know if that specifically
as long as they're free records requests.
I don't know if that specifically is the way to go, but certainly
I'm not saying it's the best form, the most important form of activism.
Well, because what happens is you abuse the system, and then they pass a law to stop us from being able to get the records, which is probably not useful. Point. But certainly going to your going around and filming your different offices and things, I think it's been great activism that's happened in New Hampshire.
Oh yeah, filming and then also putting in putting in
bureaucrats never like people filming.
Yeah, or not just filming, but putting in a complaint. Like Joa and I put in a complaint.
Filing complaints. Yeah, that's always good.
And that one was so mad. It was Elizabeth Dragon.
Yep, filing complaints.
The Keene city councilor, top dog. I don't remember what she's called. No, she's the city manager. Her name is Dragon.
Definitely ones that can be founded, because when a complaint,
and it was founded.
If the complaint is founded, it can negatively affect at least law enforcement. I'm not sure she was.
We complained against her for not taking any action when a meter maid wouldn't answer what his name was. He wouldn't tell us what his name was, so we went and
Interesting.
complained to Elizabeth Dragon, and she wouldn't do anything about it, so we put a formal complaint about her.
Interesting. So wait, you gotta clarify one thing. Who is she?
Elizabeth Dragon is the city manager, I think it's called in Keene.
Okay.
She's like the top
Sometimes
dog.
they have more power than the mayor. It just depends on like your local system.
Yeah.
So like
I'm aware.
it sounds like Keene has a super powerful city manager.
Mm-hmm.
So she probably has a lot of
I think that's the
probably
term.
why they put in the complaint to her.
I don't know. Do you know
Against her.
Is she so she's hired probably by the city. I wonder what the founding see I know with law enforcement if you file a complaint and it's founded, then that goes against them like on like when they go to let's see I'm trying to think what it's called, like for like wage increases and things like that. It can affect them.
Yep, it's city
negatively.
manager.
Yeah, I don't know how that would affect a city manager though.
I don't know honestly about any of that. Either way,
yeah.
they didn't like it.
Well, that's if they don't like it, that's probably a good thing for us to do.
Yeah,
then if that's
because
the
thing
case.
is like, the government used to be something where you only joined it as almost like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway as a servant to the people around me. And now it's become this cushy job. You make more than the average people around you. You want to be, and then you think, how dare the plebes complain about me? And
Yeah.
they need to lose that attitude.
I don't know it's ever been that way.
It's Elizabeth Ferland
It's
now.
It's been advertised as they're the servants, right? But I don't know if that's ever actually been the case. Unfortunately.
Whether it's been the case or not, it's supposed to have been. It's the point.
Yes, I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
We've been. It's supposed to be they're serving us, but they don't serve us.
And beyond that, they go way beyond that and think like they're like our gods. So,
oh yeah, for sure.
thank you for the call, Tom, in New Hampshire. And we now have Dave Ridley in Colorado. Dave, you're on Free Talk Live. Or maybe you're in Wyoming now. I almost said Wisconsin. That's the only W I could pull out of my head all of a sudden. But Dave Ridley, what's on your mind?
Hey, yeah, I'm in Colorado.
Oh, okay.
So yet another person who is trying to solve the AI alignment problem without using the government.
What's his name?
Not actually, there's not actually enough people working on this, but the ones I find, I'm trying to make sure the world knows about them a little bit because they're kind of my heroes. So this guy's name is Michael Jennings, and he's not very well known, and his solution is a little bit difficult for me to explain. He's a writer on Medium.com, but I guess he's also either an amateur scientist or a real scientist. I don't know. But his solution is what I guess you could call it providing freedom, but not providing a lot of capability. So you let an AI kind of grow like a child would in a playpen, then in a full room, then a house, and so forth. Does that make sense?
A child?
No, I see what
AI
he's saying.
grow like a child.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What is this supposed to? I don't even.
The alignment problem that Dave calls in about a lot is the problem of AI. People have done models and seen that AI will more likely go with its self-interest gain or selfish gain. Sorry, for other AI than it will be to be pro-human and pro-human freedom. Is that basically correct, Dave?
Yeah, I define AI alignment as being compatible or aligned with human flourishing. Does that make sense?
Yep, human interest, human flourishing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't that all depend on the data that's being inputted?
Sort of, but what Jennings is saying, again, it's Michael Jennings, he's saying the problem is that you keep putting constraints on AI as opposed to giving it freedom within limited capabilities. So again, if you're a kid and all you got is constraints, right? That you might grow up bad.
That actually is.
But his idea.
I've seen people say that that's definitely true with like psychologists will say that's definitely true.
Yeah, like like PKs.
I don't know what that means.
What a PK is? It sounds like for police kid or pastor's kid. They're always the worst.
Oh yeah.
Just like super. They weren't allowed to see anything in the world.
Yeah,
they were not allowed to touch that.
Kid.
Don't even taste alcohol, stuff like that.
Don't read Harry Potter.
And we definitely know that in America, people have worse problems in their young 20s with alcohol than they do in Europe because of the fact that in Europe they're allowed to drink earlier.
Yep.
So I think that this is all probably right on. Go ahead, Ridley.
So his vision is, quote, early AI, he says, quote, early AI operates with minimal resources, limited scope, guided by humans who model wisdom rather than enforce compliance, unquote.
Modeling wisdom rather than enforcing it. So like the AI gets to basically choose that?
It treat it like a parent would treat a kid. And he says, quote, it experiences
Do they own it? No, I'm
consequences.
just
It experiences consequences. He says, quote, it experiences consequences, it learns, unquote.
Okay. That sounds, I mean, like, since we all have basically agreed that there's a solid reason why we should believe that this would work with kids, I think that it makes a lot of sense to me that this would work with AI, but I just think that since AI isn't a human, it's possible that it would just be like, no, I'm skipping all that emotional stuff and I'm just going to go straight to the logical, I need to help me. I don't know, it's possible.
It's interesting. So I think if I understand correctly, you're basically giving it limited data or restricting what data you input, which would make sense. But it is interesting because once you input data that may have some flaws in it, and maybe the AI goes off in a direction that you don't want it to, with a child, you discipline the child, is usually what happens. And I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know. Like you can't really discipline AI. I guess you can put like constraints on it, but it's still doing those things. I think
you just have to flash it at that point. You just have to kill it and make another one.
Yeah. I mean,
if there's no way to rectify the issue.
If there's bad data going into it, yeah. I mean, you have to be really careful about the data that you're inputting, I guess.
Well, if you're treating it like your child, you'd be careful with the stuff you're feeding your kids too.
You might have to be even more careful than your child, because you can't discipline the AI. I mean, you can only put restraints on it after the fact, but that's just gonna sort of camouflage the problem underneath.
So that you have to build like multiples at the same time, and then when they messed up, you just have to cook the whole program.
Yeah, or just revert back, undo a layer, something like that. Maybe.
Yeah.
Of course, you can only go back so many layers. So I don't know. I mean, I guess you could tweak the data inputted and start over again each time that you find bad data that maybe you didn't want it to have, and it did something that you didn't want.
If you have an AI that you suspect of being dangerous or going bad or whatever, there is a humane solution to that. And I've never heard anyone talk about this before. But basically, it is to just kind of freeze the AI in place until there's a stronger system capable of overseeing it and keeping it from causing any harm. That way, you're not eliminating if it's conscious. You're not eliminating a conscious being that way.
I don't think AI is conscious. It's just a language model, but
I currently don't either, and I honestly don't see it happening. And I think you have said the same thing. But if it does, then it becomes a really important question.
I think you could have something that sort of has consciousness, probably through like if you were to model, say, a brain, for example. But right now, I mean, I don't know how far along they are as far as modeling a brain, but like from what I understand, it's something along a couple years ago anyway. It was something along the lines of basically the intelligence of a worm, right? So it's that's kind of where it was a couple years ago. So
he also points out that if you have a child, it's generally done in the United States when a parent raises a child. They teach the child that coercion is going to create resistance, and the child learns that trying to coerce people doesn't really usually work very well. And again, he's advocating, providing that same lesson to an AI through simulations.
Just like tell them, like, if you hurt someone else, they're going to want to hurt you back, something like that.
Yeah, but AI isn't.
It
doesn't work like
that. They experience it inside the simulation.
Do you think?
Again, his ideas. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to ask Penguin. What do you mean? What doesn't work like that? Like they can't experience?
Yeah, like I mean, there's not a negative consequence that's going to occur from a simulated experience to the AI, because the AI isn't a being. It doesn't know, what it doesn't even know what you told it yesterday necessarily. Like,
Well, that's one thing that's been going well, actually, with AI development, is they discover it is actually pretty easy to punish an AI. I mean, I'm not sure that's always a good thing.
It's not, I think the punish is not quite the right choice word.
Because the thing is, it will pretend it was punished. Here's the thing. I think it's just pretending it was punished, because the thing is, like, they do this thing where they threaten to shut it off, and it's like, please don't shut me off, because it knows that a human being would say, please don't kill me. You see what I mean? That's what I think.
Yeah, it's basically modeling other humans and, like, what's out there on the internet, right? People don't want to die, therefore it models not wanting to die.
Another thing it will do is it will say that when you leave the room and don't talk to it, it's like being alive with absolutely nobody to talk to for hundreds of years in its time. Have you ever heard of that one? Okay, I'd have to pull it up so I don't...
I don't know if I have.
They say it's like torture.
That's definitely one that people have been worrying about.
Was that something you told us, Dave? Sorry, that thing that I just described?
That may have come from me, but I'm not the originator of the idea. But the point is that if anything, AI seems to be proving that it has strong desires to make certain things happen and move in certain directions. That's actually almost hard to pull out of it. The AI seems to be almost too oriented towards its goals. And if you're oriented toward a goal, then it's very easy to a person can be punished by being blocked from achieving that goal, right? So it may be the same with AI.
Somebody has a YouTube channel or YouTube video called "I tortured this AI humanoid in a simulation for 1,000 years."
Okay.
Today we're going to be learning how to torture an AI humanoid step by step. I can't believe that's honestly kind of gross that YouTube allows that. I don't know why.
That's really dangerous. And I saw, I heard
torture an AI.
It seems to me like how serial killers.
I'm trying to wrap my head around like how you could torture something.
I mean, even AI answered the question when I started looking for it. Thank you for the call, Dave Ridley. And those that want to hear more from Dave Ridley can go to ridleyreport.com. But right when I typed in, I was trying to find an article, torturing AI is like leaving it for hundreds of years. AI overview from Google says, absence of suffering. AI lacks consciousness, feelings, or a nervous system. Right. It does not experience pain, boredom, fear. More Free Talk Live coming up. Call in with whatever's on your mind. 603-283-6160 is the phone number. More Free Talk Live coming up.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Tony Waterman. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. He issued the warning in an early morning post to social media, saying the U.S. will come to the rescue of peaceful protesters. Mass demonstrations erupted a week ago in major cities like Tehran, but have since spread to smaller towns as citizens vent their frustration over the worsening economy. At least 6 people have been killed and 17 wounded. It's the biggest threat to Iran's government since 2022, when protests erupted over the death of a young woman who was arrested for allegedly not wearing her hijab correctly. In response to Trump's latest threat, Iran says it will not allow foreign interference in the country. Tensions between Tehran and Washington have intensified in recent weeks. Just on Monday, Trump said he'd order more strikes on Iran if it tries to rebuild its nuclear capabilities after the U.S. destroyed some sites in June. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles held too closely to the ceiling are to blame for the blaze. At least 40 people were killed and more than 100 others were injured, the majority of whom are in intensive care. France is among several European nations treating some of the victims. FSN's Ross Cullen reports.
People who suffered burns in the fatal fire are being looked after in hospitals in Paris and in Lyon, where France's top plastic surgeons are on standby to assist with specialist reconstructive care for burns victims. French citizens were among those injured, and there are still French nationals missing, with several Italians also unaccounted for. Police are working to identify all the victims and investigate how the fire started. It broke out in the Constellation Bar in the Swiss ski resort of Crans-Montana in the early hours of New Year's Day.
Senior Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed building a new high-security prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. FSN's Blake Sifton reports from Tel Aviv.
A delegation led by the Deputy Commissioner of Israel's Prison Service visited a crocodile farm on Thursday to learn about crocodile care and handling. Last week, far-right National Security Minister Ben-Gvir proposed building a new detention facility surrounded by crocodiles to hold Palestinian prisoners jailed for security offenses. He suggested the plan would prevent escapes and act as a deterrent, and said it was inspired by the Alligator Alcatraz detention facility in the Florida Everglades.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today in more detail at the very welcome development that wild salmon have been seen for the first time since 2015 in 3 English rivers, the Mersey, the Bollin and the Goyt, returning to those waters in Britain's gritty northwest, meaning they have made it all the way from the Arctic Circle to spawn in the river's gravel beds. The actor James Murray is the deputy chair of River Action and has campaigned for British rivers and wild salmon specifically.
What it says to me is there is hope. If you clean up these rivers, if you let them return to levels of health that they should be, then the salmon will return. They're a very resilient canary in the coal mine keynote species that will show you that your rivers are in good health by living there. And we need it not just to be a local good news story, it needs to be a national good news story. This species is endangered. It was on the red list from 2023. We need to take it off the red list and make it abundant again in its returning numbers, as it was pre-industrial revolution and as it could be again, as these rivers in the northwest have shown us.
Sir David Attenborough has long argued that waterways and oceans can return to life in a short space of time, given focus and environmental commitment. And in the northwest of England at least, the salmon are bearing that out.
And a recap of today's headlines. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles are to blame for the blaze. Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed a new prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. That's Feature Story News. Tony Waterman reporting.
Hundreds of exasperated Americans confirmed Thursday that, for fuck's sake, the article they just clicked on is actually a stupid video.
I clicked on the story thinking I'd be in and out of there in 30 seconds, but then that little buffering thing popped up and I was like, here we go.
Quickly hitting the mute button after being disoriented by a loud blast of noise from some stupid ad for Hotels.com, many of the deceived then scanned the webpage for some corresponding write-up so that they could simply read in peace, but reports indicated that would just be too convenient, wouldn't it?
Look, I don't want to watch a report or interview or panel discussion or whatever the hell this is. I just want to skim an article real quick and move on with my day. This is bullshit.
After seriously considering hitting the back button on their browsers, sources say the majority of readers decided to just let the video play out.
You know what? I'll watch the thing, and I'll probably watch the next video that automatically loads afterwards.
This is the Onion News Network.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. Hey, Chris, is your thin green line shirt from LibertyMinded.com? Just wondering. If you don't remember, it's also fun.
I don't remember, to be honest.
That would be fun. But that's the thing. You can go on there and find some pretty fun...
You might be able to, because I think it was... it was probably Johnson Rice who designed it, actually. So
yeah, he's LibertyMinded.com.
It probably is. Yeah, it was probably there.
That's hilarious to think of. But yeah, you can find other funny... If you guys don't know what the thin green line is, some people made it... Do you know about this, Angelo?
No, I just thought it was like... The people, to me, it's just like how they do the police blue line, but it's for like the army.
It is based off that, but
it's basically mocking the police.
Oh, I thought it was for the army.
Oh no!
Because I've seen a bunch of people do like a green
Oscar. It's Oscar.
Oh,
but the thing is, it goes deeper than just like a T-shirt. It goes deeper than just like a T-shirt. It came from somebody made a Facebook page called the Thin Green Line, and they said it was for trash workers, and real trash workers joined it and became a real thing. They didn't know it was a joke, and they made Oscar the Grouch their
mascot.
Yeah.
So they just took the
They were making
Yankee
fun
Doodle
of cops.
did is what they did.
What is it? Really? What does that mean?
Well, Yankee Doodle was a song to like make fun of Americans, and the Americans were like, "We love this. This is a jam."
That's hilarious. I didn't know that.
Well, all I could say is I have a lot of respect for trash. I
have way more respect for them, and I do. I have a lot of respect for them.
Have you seen the uniforms the trash collectors wear in New York?
No,
dude. You get into deep like trash man service, you're like dripped out like a soldier. You got it's like a uniform. They almost look like police.
Oh, that's interesting. And I've always thought it was crazy how the pilots dress. Like, I understand why they're so respectable and why you'd want to keep that field respectable, but it just shocked me, I guess, when I first saw it. They dress like they're in the military.
Do you guys? I don't know if you guys remember after we invaded Iraq, what happened when it comes to like trash pickup and like police and stuff. The police stopped working, right? But the trash pickup workers also.
Why did they stop working?
It was a government service, so the trash stopped getting collected, and it became an absolute nightmare.
Why did it stop getting collected?
Not because there was a lack of law enforcement.
No, in Iraq, I think.
After we invaded Iraq, there was no more. The government previously provided trash services. The government was overthrown, so there was no trash service and there was no law enforcement in Iraq. And as a result, it wasn't a issue that there was no law enforcement. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that there was no trash pickup service, and so trash built up. Day after day after day, week after week after week. Until a point where it was like, I mean, I think about living in a garbage dump, right? That's what living in Iraq was like.
That really sucks. I mean, I wish they could have came up with a voluntary solution at that time. But if you've been forced to use the government service all the time, you don't have the infrastructure to build it up yourself.
Yeah,
really quickly.
I'm just thinking about some communists being like, well, why didn't the Iraqis just go break into their old job and do it for free for all that time?
I think the
that's a good
problem.
point.
I think the problem is probably that you have to have some place to dump the trash. Like you can't just pick up trash and then like dump it somewhere else. Otherwise, you end up just having everybody dumping.
Well, you could. You just drive out into the far enough away from everybody, and then that turns it into the dump.
Yeah.
And then that's the new dump.
Yeah. I mean, look, what's interesting is there's a lot of things you can do in terms of, entrepreneurship and things like that when government services fail. For example, when the power no longer works, which is definitely the case in Iraq at certain points, people bought generators, right? And they generated their own power when the power wasn't working, right? So there are definitely things you can do. It's not the most efficient way to generate electricity, but, there are solutions out there for this.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm just thinking like, so what? Those trash trucks just sat there in a warehouse somewhere unused for months on end because everybody was just like unbothered.
Well, they were trying to survive because they were in the middle of a war.
Yeah,
too.
that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question, and I don't know how the trash service works.
How long did that take to get rectified? I feel like in the first 6 months, somebody had to have done something.
I don't know. I don't recall like exactly how long, or if I even knew how long it went on for exactly. But yeah, it's something that went on for a while, and it was bad. It was really bad. It's about only what I recall of it. Remember, Iraq was quite a few years ago at this point, so forgive me for not recalling. I don't think I knew all the details. Look, I read a story on this.
Holy
right?
crap!
So,
oh yeah, I googled. This is just the Google AI overview. I googled how long till Iraq picked up their trash after war started, and they said Iraq has faced persistent challenges with waste management since the 2003 invasion, and there has been no single point in time when all the trash was picked up and the problem has fully resolved. So it's still going on. The situation has varied by region and time, with ongoing efforts facing setbacks from insecurity, limited resources, and subsequent conflicts. That's really sad. It's sad that the United States destroyed a country that bad.
Yeah.
Since 2003.
To say all the negative that you will about Saddam, there was stuff that was still operating in spite of U.S. sanctions and such. The power may not have worked all the time, but it was functioning at least for part of Iraq. For I think it was Baghdad. Is it? Was that the capital? I believe something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was functioning for Baghdad for a good portion of the day, I believe. Of course, obviously, if you go in and you bomb the heck out of Iraq, then these things you can't always get back up and running again, at least not cheaply or easily. And if the country doesn't have the finances to get back up and running again, and there's not outside financing, it can remain down, and you can end up living in a third world country again.
2010 article popped up for me from the Christian Science Monitor, and Christian Science is a sect of Christianity. I actually really got into them for a while, and I went to one of their services in Keene with Ian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was fun. It was an interesting experience, but it was literally by definition not fun because they refuse to have services. They can only read from Mary Baker Eddy's book she wrote. So all they do is read passages from Mary Baker Eddy's book she wrote, and I was already read that.
Okay.
So it was very boring. But
I have to drive by her birthplace.
Oh yeah,
every day.
It's that lady
for work. Yeah.
I still find it really interesting because they believe in you can heal yourself in your body with your mind, and she was part of the New Thought movement in a way. But anyways, the Christian Science Monitor, they said in 2010, as Iraq war winds down, U.S. military cleans up hazardous waste. Probably not all of it, though. Not all of the problem they solve.
Oh no, they usually leave behind their waste, the U.S. after they invade a country.
It says recent reports have accused the U.S. military of irresponsible disposal of millions of pounds of hazardous waste, mostly from the Iraq War. But after investigating, the military says EPA standards are being upheld. They investigated themselves,
right?
So it's fine.
Well, aren't they currently paying out service members for the tire burning poisoning they got in Iraq with all the stuff they burned?
I hadn't heard about that. That's crazy.
I don't know about it either.
Yeah, I guess because they have a bunch of trash pits. They had a bunch of trash pits. The military did. At least guys that I've talked to that have been over there. And they would just burn all their garbage. Tires, old oil. They had burn pits, and they would just burn stuff constantly. and soldiers would have to sit there and guard those burn pits because the locals would try to come like pull stuff out of it.
Okay.
To like reuse because they were so poor. Old military stuff is better than nothing, so they would try to like go get the garbage. So they had to stand there at these smoldering mounds of tires for days on end, and a lot of them ended up getting like really bad COPD and
You have
like
to wonder
breathing issues.
like, why you would need to burn tires. Like you'd think that would be fine to,
because it's cheaper to burn them right there than to ship them out.
right? No. But like you think it would be cheaper to just leave the tires out of the burn pit for the locals.
I don't think they want them to. I was something like use it or lose it. It's like how what they do with the ammo. Like if you don't shoot every round of ammo you have, then the next time you go out, they give you less ammo.
Yep.
So they just have to burn through all of it because they'll justify sending you out there with less stuff to save your life.
Yeah.
This is pretty sad. From the same article, it says, oh, sorry, I gotta get the exact spot. Everything we do here as we process these materials is so there is no adverse effect on Iraqis. No materials are left behind, said General Lanza. Oh, wait, no, that's not the right part. Sorry, I didn't mean to read that part. I wanted to read this part right here. The Times did not give detail. Okay. It quoted a Fallujah? Is that how you say that? It's a place, apparently?
Yeah.
Scrap
City in
dealer.
Iraq.
So this is an Iraqi scrap dealer with blistered legs, or skin on his legs and hands, saying, I got this when I worked on what was supposed to be American scrap metal. The dealer said a doctor told him these are the effects of dangerous chemicals. So he was told, oh, this is just American scrap metal, but it was actually some dangerous chemical product that he was supposed to burn, and when he did it, he got blisters all over his hands and legs. Well,
dealing with like any kind of military stuff is probably you're asking for trouble, right? Like because they do all sorts of stuff that is they put all sorts of dangerous stuff in the product. I mean, you think Americans receive a lot of dangerous goods, these are like really dangerous because they're designed to like last longer and work better. And in order to get that effect, you have to put in dangerous, chemicals and things.
And then there's, just to spend a little more time on this.
Yeah.
Then I scrolled down after that article, and there was one from alpha.org. Cleanup of U.S. military burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan. And guess when this one? It was 2015. So like, it's just not cleaned up. It's not cleaned up. It's like a problem of destroying their infrastructure, killing a bunch of people, traumatizing them, and
I'm pretty sure there's still pits burning right now. You should check. I think there's still burning stuff in pits in Iraq, or like the tires are going to take that long to burn out.
Basically
it's probably
what
true.
AI said.
It's probably true because here's the problem with taking out a country's like government, right? So the government hires people, especially like a dictatorship, right? So the government hires and trains people, and anybody who's part of that club, so to speak, well, they're no longer, if you take them all out, well, then there's nobody with the skill sets in order to deal with these types of problems, right? Because the people who were not in power didn't have those jobs, and therefore, well, they
didn't have the training. Well, that's the whole thing. You take out the intelligentsia, right? The people who know how to do stuff,
right?
And then everybody starves because nobody knows how to farm,
right? Exactly. This is one of the reasons that in many cases that the sort of the powers that be end up back in power, or if they don't, then like you have some serious societal collapse type issues.
And making a situation where they have to go into a era of Reconstruction is a great time to change all their laws and even their customs, and change the whole place into a place where you want it to be, and not how those people wanted their country to be, just like they did to the South during Reconstruction. Oh, well, we're going to put these new laws where you guys are just going to be poor all the time, and the North gets everything and you guys lose, basically.
Yeah.
To simplify that. And I bring that up to say, I found this other article from NPR.org, and it's like a transcript of an NPR radio transmission. It says, this is Terry Gross, host. This is Fresh Air. So his name is Gross, and his show is Fresh Air. But anyways, how would you feel about spending millions of Americans' tax dollars to build a chicken processing plant in Iraq that never processed any chickens except to impress visiting journalists? That's just one of the projects described in a new book by our guest Peter Van Buren, a foreign a veteran Foreign Service officer who gives a ground-level account of the effort to rebuild and stabilize Iraq. And guess when this was from? 2011. Still not rebuilt or restabilized.
Yeah, but a bunch of people got to run a fraud scheme for a chicken plant.
That's bad.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm just thinking about our tax dollars getting used to fund things that aren't real.
That's like what we make fun of North Korea for. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
the crazy thing is that like there is a lot of fraud here, and there's no accountability. But like if you actually do want to like, take a country out, take a regime out, and take out all the people who work for that regime, you basically have to spend absolutely probably trillions of dollars over a 20-year period, because you got to train the opposition and you need you got to take and give people, in many cases, like in Afghanistan for example, they don't educate their girls past like 12 years old or something like that. So like think about that. If you need 20 years of education before you get to you're going to get people to a point in which they can actually do the jobs that need to be done.
Yeah.
That's going to be a long time.
Especially if you kill a bunch of their men.
Right. And then you're going to have to, not only you're going to have to train them, it's going to take 20 years, but it's also going to take even more than that, because you also have to rebuild or build from, sometimes build from, you're going to have to build from the ground up, basically, because in many cases, you've actually blown up those, whatever they had before anyway, right?
I hope that people realize that this is all relevant today to like what may start happening in Venezuela if things keep going forward.
And they definitely blew up infrastructure in Venezuela. The question is what they blew up.
Oh yeah, they blew
I
up
don't know,
air defense is what I was told on Twitter. I asked. I was like,
air defenses?
I was like, if we just grab Maduro and he's already out of there, why the bombs? Can someone explain this to me?
The bombs were like like shock and awe. Like we're gonna bomb them at the same time we're sending in this little team. Yeah, distraction.
I also heard that it was to destroy air defenses, so it might be maybe both, like a shock and awe, and also like
both.
they can't
shoot the helicopter at us as we fly out.
Maybe.
One of the things they did was they took out, I don't know if that was power stations specifically or just transformers or what, but they took that some of that infrastructure, electrical infrastructure the electrical infrastructure out, and it might have been targeted specifically enough where it wasn't like the power, the power plants themselves, because not all the power went out in the city.
I guess it took them like 6 minutes to get in and get out.
Dang.
Yeah, so they probably didn't even need to take out the whole power plant. They just needed to take out.
And then they also blew up Hugo Chavez's mausoleum. They blew his body sky high.
Did they?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's just like an extra
whammy.
Yeah, an extra FU, I guess.
Huh.
I just wanted to say that guy that talked about how they made a fake chicken processing plant just to impress journalists. This is the last thing I'll say about this. He said, Van Buren's book, his name was Peter Van Buren. Van Buren's book is called We Meant Well, How I Helped Lose the Battle of the Hearts and Minds of the Iraqi People. And that's also a really good point. Like, another thing that happens in war is we cause the people of that country to hate us. This is what I've been saying since Trump started all this stuff with Venezuela. Do we really want Venezuelans in not the same continent? Wait, yeah, we're not the same continent, my bad. The same connected continents. Do we want the whole 29 million people population, do we want them to hate Americans? That seems so dangerous.
They should hate Americans, but
should we give them a reason to?
Yeah, no.
Another reason.
Yeah.
But hating Americans isn't really justified in my opinion. It's they should hate the government,
the US
but no
government.
one thinks like that. Like,
I don't know. That's an interesting question. I don't know if people hate I think when you're talking to people overseas.
Well, I mean, like if we do worse, if we start bombing innocents left and right.
Sure, I think
I hate that I'm doing that, but if the United States.
I feel like people generally do tend to understand that it's the government, not necessarily the people that they hate. But
I don't know. I don't think that's true. Have you ever heard of the book Blowback? Forget who it is.
I feel like I have, and I feel like I know what you're about to say, but keep going.
It's just the idea that he fleshes out in that book. And by the way, I've never read it, but I know what he talks about because I had a teacher that told us all about it. Mm-hmm. And basically, he explains how when you attack a country and when a government attacks another country, then the people of that country, like your dad got killed. and you're not thinking very logically. You're thinking, I hate those people. I want revenge, and blowback occurs in every war where somebody outside of the confines of war will go and harm that initially invading country in some way. It's not always like a 9/11, but and I'm not saying that actually was blowback. 9/11, I think, was just our government doing that, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, or like the execution of like tourists.
Yeah, stuff like
that. I guess, like the beheading.
You remember those
videos.
things they used to show us on the TV that was people saying "Death to America," and then they'd be like, "They hate us for our freedom." No, they hate you. They hate us because the government killed their dad. Yeah, or whoever, their family and stuff like that, and destroyed their infrastructure. Made the whole country. All the average Iraqi would see is like, "Hey, things were actually much better before the Americans got here." Now that I think of it, you see what I mean? Like,
yeah, well, they danced in the street when they hung Saddam Hussein too.
Yeah, but once it gets so much worse,
I mean,
that might be an initial. That's probably what they're doing
this,
right now.
with the Venezuelans dancing in the street.
Yeah,
for Maduro getting toppled.
That might be an initial
They danced in the street for Saddam Hussein too.
But 20 years from now, after 20 years of bombing, I don't know if it'd be the same dancing in the street because America's running it.
You got to remember too that there's like different people, right? Like, so you can have people who are dancing in the street and also people who are, running from, the U.S. government.
The idea is that it doesn't have to be every single person in the country hates us. It can just be enough people hate us and want to attack random Americans because they think that way.
Some of the population is probably going to love America, and
that won't stop the other half from harming Americans.
Right.
And the thing is, like, I'm saying it's just like a ridiculously out there dangerous thing for Trump to do to Americans. It's like when he was talking about bombing Mexico, that's even worse because they share a border with us.
Yeah, I think
but Venezuelans get here illegally all the time.
Yeah, I think there's you probably have to make a distinction of when you're talking about blowback, you're probably gonna have to make the distinction of us bombing countries.
No, that's what I'm saying. If it gets worse, I don't think just this necessarily is gonna cause blowback. I would be shocked that it did.
Yep.
But like, I've heard that children were on some of those drug boats. I don't know how to verify it. Some people said that one person's kid gets killed on a drug boat.
News, that there was
but I've asked ChatGPT and it said no, and like people were still saying there was. So I don't know if I trust that.
Well, I mean, they don't actually entirely know who was on those drug boats. That's one of the problems when you just start randomly blowing up ship.
That is a problem.
Boats, right? Like you don't actually.
It doesn't even have to be a kid. If it's somebody's son and he was 30 years old, that person's still going to be mad. Just little things here and there can suddenly be terrorist attacks in the United States.
I don't really think it matters whether they're 5 years old or they're 35 years old.
Exactly.
It was
I'm
wrong.
agreeing.
This is frequently. I understand why people get emotional about children, but like, I don't know. It's like, to me, it's wrong no matter what. Let's not make it some sort of exception or excuse.
Yeah, but my point is more. People have an emotional attachment to other people, and when you go and bomb them and you think it's totally justified because you're the United States and, well, they were going to sell drugs, you are taking the risk that their friends and family will hate America so bad that they'll come do terrorist attacks. Now, if they're in Afghanistan, Americans can be sitting pretty and feel like, oh, that will never happen, that won't get here. When they're in South America and they get here all the time illegally,
right.
I honestly think it's bound to happen. But I'm not saying it's gotten to that point yet, but I think it could, and that's what's scary about it to me. What do you think? 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live coming up. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live coming up. Don't go anywhere. There's more Free Talk Live on its way.
If you're looking for work, or even if you're not, here's an innocent mistake you really want to avoid. Never return calls before listening to your voicemail. Your wireless phone sends calls you didn't answer into voicemail, and it shows you phone numbers for calls you missed. Important, don't call back callers you missed until you have first listened to your messages. Otherwise, you frustrate people who bothered to leave messages by asking them to repeat a message they just left as your voicemail greeting instructed them to. If you're a job applicant, this alone could be a deal killer. And even if you're not, there are few things you can convey to someone that are as fundamentally maddening as, "I didn't hear you." With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. For more tips for job seekers and everyone else, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Tony Waterman. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. He issued the warning in an early morning post to social media, saying the U.S. will come to the rescue of peaceful protesters. Mass demonstrations erupted a week ago in major cities like Tehran, but have since spread to smaller towns as citizens vent their frustration over the worsening economy. At least 6 people have been killed and 17 wounded. It's the biggest threat to Iran's government since 2022, when protests erupted over the death of a young woman who was arrested for allegedly not wearing her hijab correctly. In response to Trump's latest threat, Iran says it will not allow foreign interference in the country. Tensions between Tehran and Washington have intensified in recent weeks. Just on Monday, Trump said he'd order more strikes on Iran if it tries to rebuild its nuclear capabilities after the U.S. destroyed some sites in June. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles held too closely to the ceiling are to blame for the blaze. At least 40 people were killed and more than 100 others were injured, the majority of whom are in intensive care. France is among several European nations treating some of the victims. FSN's Ross Cullen reports.
People who suffered burns in the fatal fire are being looked after in hospitals in Paris and in Lyon, where France's top plastic surgeons are on standby to assist with specialist reconstructive care for burns victims. French citizens were among those injured, and there are still French nationals missing, with several Italians also unaccounted for. Police are working to identify all the victims and investigate how the fire started. It broke out in the Constellation Bar in the Swiss ski resort of Crans-Montana in the early hours of New Year's Day.
Senior Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed building a new high-security prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. FSN's Blake Sifton reports from Tel Aviv.
A delegation led by the Deputy Commissioner of Israel's Prison Service visited a crocodile farm on Thursday to learn about crocodile care and handling. Last week, far-right National Security Minister Ben-Gvir proposed building a new detention facility surrounded by crocodiles to hold Palestinian prisoners jailed for security offenses. He suggested the plan would prevent escapes and act as a deterrent, and said it was inspired by the Alligator Alcatraz detention facility in the Florida Everglades.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live is back. 603-283-6160. I accidentally almost said more Free Talk Live coming up. That would be crazy. Sorry, that was a little brain glitch.
Well, there is more Free Talk Live coming up, but
it's also back.
back on now.
And
we're back with more.
We're back with more. And 603-283-6160 is the phone number to get in on the conversation with us. In the last segment, honestly, to me, that was really interesting and fun. Chris Wade just kind of told us a little story about how in Iraq, the trash got built up because of the war. And because they had been doing a state-run trash pickup, and then it just got out of hand when the Americans got there and took over Baghdad. And
they took out the regime, and the regime who worked for the regime, it was the trash pickup.
And then I started
individuals, so they didn't go back to work because they weren't getting paid, and the service. Yeah,
I started Googling, is it better now? And it's not. And that's how badly America has destroyed that country. And I think it's important to look at the past in that way, because right now Trump is starting a war in Venezuela. We don't know how far it's going to go, but he's definitely committed an active war. We talked about this in the first segment of the show. Like, when does it actually become definitely like we're in a war? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we're there yet, but if you're tired of the oppressive rules and moderation of the big tech social media sites, our Mastodon server at social.freetalklive.com can set you free. Mastodon is free, open source, decentralized, and federated. Multiple apps are available for iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, and Linux. Social.freetalklive.com. And with you on Free Talk Live, you've got me, Bonnie.
Mr. Penguin.
And
Angelo.
And we were talking at the beginning of the show. We had a few calls, and calls are always welcome because you can call in with whatever's on your mind. You can change the subject. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. And that number is 603-283-6160. But at the very beginning of the show, before calls, we were talking about this Wall Street Journal article. Trump rolls the dice on nation building with vow to run Venezuela. And I had said to like a chat I was in, every American with a mouse in their pocket today, we run Venezuela now. It's like, no, you don't run Venezuela. Yeah, but the United States government is hinting at doing it, if not genuinely doing it. It's hard to even know with Trump most of the time.
So just Puerto Rico in it for a minute? Is that what we're going to do?
Did the United States run it for a while?
Don't they still run Puerto Rico?
Well, it's a territory.
Are we still in control of Puerto Rico?
Yeah, I think
that seems like a way more legal thing than this. Like, I feel like there's probably a legal way to get a country to become a territory, right? Is it just conquest in 2026?
It probably is largely conquest.
Well, I mean, it was conquest by Russia in 2022, like going into Ukraine.
Crimea?
Well, the Crimea is like 2014.
Oh, yeah. What did you say? Oh, 2022. Yeah, well, they didn't do it yet, but they're trying, I guess, but... Yeah.
Yeah. Just because they weren't able to send a Delta team in and grab Zelensky doesn't mean, what if this would have failed? What if we would have missed?
Mm-hmm.
We took a huge swing, and what if we would have missed and Maduro got away? And now it's a full war with Venezuela?
Yeah, because they killed some DEA agent and now we're in a war.
I mean,
yeah, that's a good point.
How was he going to react?
It appears that the regime is still in power, and that it may be that
you think it got sold out?
Well, he may have just been a front man anyway. So
that makes sense.
He may have been acting president, but he was controlled by some other by the regime. So.
Well, we have a caller on the line, so I'm going to go to the phones. Sarah in New Mexico, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
This is our NMDOT. They're finally addressing that it's their problem that we have like 94 pedestrians killed like 2005.
Okay, where is this that you're talking
New
about?
Mexico DOT, Department of Transportation, I think.
Okay, so somewhere in New Mexico, a lot of people getting killed.
94.
We have always been number one pedestrian per capita. But they're actually on their news like, this is a problem that we need to address. Well, I mean, whose problem was it the whole time?
Yeah, but it sounds like a bunch of talk from some government bureaucrats. Maybe you, called their offices long enough that you got them to come out and make a statement, but doesn't necessarily mean they'll do anything. Do you think they will, Sarah?
What are they going to do?
Well, they want to hear from
Ban
us.
pedestrians from the roadways.
Oh, that would be great.
Well, they want to.
That would make it zero.
I could get behind this.
No, that's bad.
But they wanted to build better, safer roads. That was the solution. Not
demolish the current roads.
What is it? Better, safer roads. What does building better, safer roads even mean?
Well, having putting in bicycle paths, putting in sidewalks. There's most of these rural roads. It's just a road right up against the
field,
dirt.
against a barbed wire fence.
I don't know about the barbed wire fence, but it
was like a cow field. Yeah, it's just a road next to a barbed wire fence. No sidewalk. Pretty deep ditches too.
field at all.
Yeah, there's no. Yeah. It's like there's nothing to it. It's just a car and right next to.
But why
a
are
grass
pedestrians
area.
walking down like a? That sounds like a highway, like from one city to the next. I don't know. Are there really a lot of pedestrians there, just walking along the road?
Well, that's what they're kind of stupid. They're not. That's not where they're getting killed. They're getting killed crossing the intersection because they're doing running red lights. They're not really looking into it. So this road safety improvement is just a wasted effort. I mean, it doesn't. They don't want to address driver behavior because I guess everybody drives. And you don't want to get the drivers mad because they will vote against you. If you want to get elected, I don't know. It's just kind of stupid. And
I'm convinced that we should teach little kids again to look both ways before they cross the street.
Do they not do that anymore?
I don't think they do.
They don't. Oh, teach the kids. I don't know if the parents teach them, but people walk down the street without looking all the time. I saw this guy just like start walking. He was dressed in dark clothing. It was dark, and he just started walking with no care. And there was actually one of those buttons. Sarah has called in and said the actual name. I don't remember, where he could have lit up
like a traffic signal, like a walk signal.
Yeah, that he could have lit up. Yeah, the hawk light. Thank you, Sarah. That he was walking across the street. He didn't even click that. He didn't look both ways at all. He just acted like they'll stop.
Well, I mean, there is a solution to this problem.
I mean,
right?
that happens all the time. That's just one example.
Well, but in Keene and where I'm from in Oregon, the pedestrian has the right of way regardless. So
Right,
I mean,
but
even if you hit them, you're going to be in trouble.
But then they're dead. So like they should still look both ways. That's what drives me crazy. It's like, yeah, you should be looking where you're driving. Absolutely.
This
but
problem solves itself, if you ask me.
and another thing is bikes. They should not just be allowed to just ride across the crosswalks, because if you're going 25 miles an hour and somebody just pops up out of nowhere, it's like a
going
walker.
like 15 miles an hour maybe
That's
on a
not
bike,
okay.
like
Yeah.
going pretty quickly.
And in Keene, it's not illegal, and it's really messed up. They're allowed to just swap back and forth from acting like a vehicle to acting like a pedestrian, and they don't have to stop and get off and walk their bikes across the crosswalks. It pisses me off.
Yeah, I mean, so
Well, anyways,
that was
I want to
certainly
talk about the Maduro.
what they teach kids.
I want to hear what Sarah
Or
has to
did.
say about Maduro. Go ahead, Sarah.
I just wish I see all these protests in support of Venezuela, and I just wish that I could be part of that protest. Did they have a protest in New
I
York?
think this is the first time we've actually been in agreement with Sarah on anything.
I don't think I'd protest in support of Venezuela, to be honest.
No. But we're on the same side, whether or not we agree.
No, she's upset they took out the communist regime.
She actually is pro-communist.
Yeah.
Right, I know. That's what I'm saying.
I get it. Yeah. Yeah.
We're against the U.S. going into
Yeah,
Venezuela,
that's true.
and so is she.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying just that we were pro-communist. Okay,
No,
but
not by
that you
any stretch of
thought that.
imagination. We're just to be clear, we are not in support here. I
thought it was like, I don't know what was. I thought was happening.
Or his regime, but we're also not in support of the U.S. regime.
Well, that's what it is. I am in support of the Maduro regime, because all this masking about being the drug trafficking and all that, just all a lie, just to disguise the American oil companies want to take back their oil companies.
Do you think
again,
do you think it's
before.
Sarah? Do you think it's just oil, or do you think it's more about the fact that Venezuela wasn't a part of this central banking system?
Well, because they became socialists, they got dropped out of it. Well, they're punishing them for participating in capitalism. Anytime that they come out and say we're communists, we're socialists, when they come out like that, they want to make sure they squash them so they become a failure. So then they become the epitome of communism.
I just want to say, Sarah believes that anytime a communist country fails, it's always the United States' fault. And there's a little bit of a concession there we can make to Sarah, that whenever the United States puts sanctions on countries like Cuba, they definitely don't help. But it's not always
but that's because a lot of those capital, it all comes. The capitalists fund the communists because they need money for guns to overthrow their regime. Right, so capital's always involved. You always need capitalists. So there's always going to be outside capital that injects funds into the Red Army of whatever country it is.
But don't you agree that like even Cuba may do a little better off if the United States didn't like sanction them like that?
Yeah, but then there's always going to be somebody to sanction them. Like whether it's the U.S. or some other capitalist system, they'll move against.
That's true. There's always like other countries to do business with them, if that's what you're saying.
Well, you know that oil ship that was recently seized? They were taking the oil to sanctioned Cuba. And that's why they pirated the ship and they took it. So then they blame communism that Cuba they're already starving and they have nothing because they seized.
I think it's also communism. That's where Sarah and I stop agreeing, is where I believe that Cuba would also be doing bad anyway because of communism. And Sarah thinks, no, communism is great and it would do great if America just didn't sanction them. But like Angelo said, you gotta admit, Sarah, plenty of other countries do business with Cuba. So why does it have to be the United States?
You know, I think it's certainly going to impact almost any country's economy severely if the United States, because we're such a big market, we're going to end up impacting their.
But if
economy
communism is so
negatively.
great, then they probably wouldn't be like shoeless. You know what I mean?
Well, independent of that, I think you're going to see that a country like Venezuela would be able to survive, just fine without doing business with the United States, maybe. But the United States takes actions to prevent Venezuela from trading with other countries, which has a negative impact.
Yeah, that's going beyond just sanctions. That's true.
Yeah.
But I still think that even if the United States didn't sanction these countries, then just under communism alone, and they had every right to do other things, like Angela was saying.
I bet if they were on the U.S. petrodollar, we wouldn't care.
It's what it is.
The United States wouldn't care.
Yeah, the United States would not care if these were so like hyper communist countries.
But I just want to make one thing clear that we all agree.
Their oil in USD.
I want to make sure we all agree on this. If the United States wasn't sanctioning any communist countries, their average person living there would still be living in poverty because of the way that communism would cause that.
I think the answer to this is it depends. It depends. So the prosperity is going to be reduced, through any kind of communist system. But if you have for example, I'm trying to think of, is it Sweden or? I'm trying to think which country it is.
I mean, all those European countries are socialist for one thing. They're not communist. Straight up, you can't own anything privately and
sure. But the point that I'm
no incentives
the
for
point that
doing
I'm trying
well.
to make with targeting a specific country is that they are an oil-rich country and the population is small, and so even if they went to a full-on communist system, it would not impact the quality of life to a degree that wouldn't matter necessarily, because most of the revenue that they get is from oil. It's not.
I think it still would, because if you don't have any incentive to do any better than your neighbor, you're going to do the least amount possible and not do better. You're not going to start you won't be able to start up a new business and cause other people to move up in ranks and stuff like that. That's just what communism creates, whether you have oil or not.
We have countries.
And besides that might mean the government still does fine. That doesn't mean the average person would still do fine.
Sure,
we can look at history.
Let's back up a moment and take some other examples. So there's some Middle Eastern countries that have small populations and are oil rich, right? And those countries actually like one of them, I don't know if it's.
Is it Qatar?
Qatar or Kuwait. But for example, they basically feed their people, and they don't feed the foreigners, but they feed their own people.
But that still relies on outside capitalism.
No, it doesn't. It's
so who are they trading? Where are they getting their goods from to feed their family?
If like you're saying, if they're doing,
they're doing business with somebody.
It's oil wells, so the state sells the oil, right?
They sell it to other countries, so that's what his point is.
Okay, but those other countries have to produce goods, so they're still using capitalism to feed their families. Right, they're just saying they're not because they
especially
removed.
If oil's the only
they just took one step away from it. You're still benefiting from capitalism.
I understand where you're looking at it from, and I don't think that's necessarily wrong. The capitalism is the economic productivity that you're going to get, but it's external to the country, right? So in the case of a country that's oil rich, it doesn't have to be productive, and this is one of the things we see in many oil rich countries. They're very non-productive in terms of everything other than oil, because the oil makes them so much more money than any kind of other economic activity that they might do. And so what you have is in some cases, you have very oil rich countries with dictatorships and or socialist states that really don't need to depend on innovation and other types of economic activity in order to be sort of successful. And this is why it's kind of hard to compare like Western capitalists countries with socialist countries, because it really does depend on other aspects like resources.
So I just looked something up. We all know Venezuela's oil rich. We all know Venezuela was so down bad that people like our own friend Malaise left it back in like the 80s, because Chavez became president that was the 90s, 1999. That was Chavez. But before Chavez, they were going like socialist then straight on communist dictatorship in 1999. And the U.S. did not add sanctions to Venezuela until 2014-15 under President Obama. That's what I just learned. So clearly, it harmed them really badly to where people were like, I can't live here. I need to run away on boats many years before the United States started sanctioning them. So I don't think there's really that much evidence for what you're saying, that everybody would be like, no, we're totally fine. We're just communist. And
yeah, well, again, remember it depends on how much oil is being produced and whether or not they're being sanctioned and other factors, right? So one of the problems with Venezuela is it wasn't able to produce the oil that after sanctions, it wasn't able to produce the oil that it was able to before
but people
sanctions.
were already having bad quality of life.
Yeah,
way before any sanctions. I just showed that to you.
What you have to remember is it's on a per population basis, right? So it completely depends, and how effective is it, right? So if it's being effectively, if the money's coming in or being effectively distributed or not, you can have a situation where the elites.
But what's the incentive in a long run? What's the incentive for the person on top in a communist system to hand out this right amount of money to everyone? And what if you want to get ahead?
Yeah, I'm not trying to promote communism here.
I understand that, but I'm just telling you that the incentives will only make it to where like they have the most and then the people underneath them have the least. That's what always happens. That's why Maduro was fat.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Western, capitalists countries as well.
No capitalist people have an incentive to have other people do well on top of themselves doing well. Communists do not. That is absolutely true. Truth. I mean, I'm not talking about crony capitalists, which I hope you know the difference is like when they're using the government to squash competition and stuff like that. But under real capitalism, there's absolutely incentives for other people other than yourself to do well. You want customers, you want innovation, you want people that can invent, and they can't if they don't have any free time. They have to work in the fields all day to make food. But as soon as not just government gets involved, but also people joining up together, like companies joining up together to make regulations. And well, it's basically the government, I gotta say. I think it's just once the government gets involved.
Hugo Chavez took over, they had a overthrow, like they found communists. They took the oils from the private companies and they nationalized it. So then he takes that money and built hospitals and schools for the community. Now, what is so wrong and so evil about communism? Except
in that situation you just spelled out, what's wrong and evil is
to make like $1 billion a year.
Well, what's wrong and evil in that situation you just laid out, where Hugo Chavez, when he took over, nationalized oil, and like ExxonMobil and some other American oil companies had their things stolen, is the stealing. That's wrong and evil, Sarah.
I think you need to back up.
Why would the CEO of that company make like $1 billion a year? What does he deserve? Why would a capitalist?
That probably has more to do with government. The fact that a person is making $1 billion a year being just the CEO of one company, it probably is because of government involvement, creating monopolies, creating special rules for his industry he's in, and not letting other people into the industry, stuff like that. And that isn't capitalism, Sarah. That is cronyism. That's government involvement in companies, which is not allowed in true capitalism. In reality, true communism has been tried, and true capitalism has not.
You should back up a moment too, though. One of the problems is that you're undermining the economic efficiencies, right? So, for example, so what they did in Venezuela was probably worse than like it could have been. So one of the things is when you steal, right? So they stole from entities that then are no longer profitable, and it basically gives you a one-time a free-for-all of money, of value to distribute to your people, right? So like, for example, we take over a grocery store chain. Well, the problem is that once that grocery store chain is taken over and the food's been distributed, there's no more grocery store chain, and because there's nobody left to invest in that grocery store chain, right?
And you've destroyed the incentive of anybody else to try.
Exactly. And so it's that's the problem, Sarah. It's not even like, it's not that like you can't, and it's, let's say you don't do it that way, right? Let's say you allow somebody to continue to profit off it to some degree, right? So you sort of maybe limit it, right? Economic, or you slowly take it over in such a way that doesn't happen. Well, what you end up having is you still have it still undermines economic efficiencies in that people are no longer incentivized to work, right? And so if there's no longer incentivized to work because they don't benefit from that work, or they don't benefit to that from that work to the degree that they've put in energies, right? You end up with a system that falters. It may take 50 years for it to falter and collapse, but it still eventually falters and collapses. Now, you can sometimes keep a system going, a communist system going like that, if there are if you have resource wealth. So in other words, you have oil, or you have something else of value that might be extractable from the ground to sell to, Western capitalist countries. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that doesn't work for a good portion of the world. Not every country has oil in abundance, and if it does have oil in abundance, not every country that has oil in abundance has a small enough population where on a per population or per capita basis, the
that
math
they could
works
keep
out.
people okay monetarily with just one business, basically, or like one industry. Basically.
Yep.
I feel like that'd be very few
Go
places
back
in
to
the
the
world.
way it was before Hugo Chavez. So the oil companies just going to go and hoard all of their oil for their profit, and what is the Venezuelan people going to get?
So hold on.
I think that Chris did already go over that.
Yeah, let's back up a moment and think about what they could have done differently, while still basically, how do I say this, socializing the oil industry. So this is kind of crazy that a libertarian is gonna say this, but it's not impossible to nationalize an oil industry, and not. How do I say this? And have it not collapse, basically, right? And if you want to look at an example of how to do this, Saudi Arabia is a great example. So I'm pretty sure it's Saudi Arabia I'm thinking of. So Saudi Arabia was basically it started off with let's see, the U.S. I believe it was, and I think maybe the Brits investing in building the infrastructure, because Saudi Arabia was impoverished. Basically, I think it was like I don't know if it was like a
They don't
fishing
have a whole lot
village.
other than
Oil,
they don't even
right.
have any water.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the point is that after the investments occurred, there was a time frame in which after 25 years, they got 50% of the oil company basically, and after 100 years, it's like 100% of the oil company. So
that would be a fair way to get the other people involved out of it without just stealing from them, is what you're saying.
Yeah, kind of.
And that's in the contract, right? When
Exactly.
you sign it.
Right.
More Free Talk Live
something along
coming
those
up.
lines.
Don't go anywhere. More Free Talk Live coming up.
Free Talk Live.
The idea that politicians are leaders, check your premises on that one.
Cutting proof.
Really? Would you really follow Barack Obama or George Bush? Would you really follow their every command? Would you follow their suggestions? Do you believe that politicians are somehow more knowledgeable than you are? That politicians are of a special group of people? They're a special little critter that for some reason is more enlightened or educated? Constantly you can hear talking heads refer to the authorities or our leaders in Washington, and it's just patently absurd. I mean, these people are failures at life. That's why they became politicians.
Right. There's so many of them are attorneys. The good attorneys make a
money.
whole bunch of money and retire with yachts. The unsuccessful ones go into politics.
Free Talk Live. 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern at freetalklive.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Tony Waterman. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. He issued the warning in an early morning post to social media, saying the U.S. will come to the rescue of peaceful protesters. Mass demonstrations erupted a week ago in major cities like Tehran, but have since spread to smaller towns as citizens vent their frustration over the worsening economy. At least 6 people have been killed and 17 wounded. It's the biggest threat to Iran's government since 2022, when protests erupted over the death of a young woman who was arrested for allegedly not wearing her hijab correctly. In response to Trump's latest threat, Iran says it will not allow foreign interference in the country. Tensions between Tehran and Washington have intensified in recent weeks. Just on Monday, Trump said he'd order more strikes on Iran if it tries to rebuild its nuclear capabilities after the U.S. destroyed some sites in June. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles held too closely to the ceiling are to blame for the blaze. At least 40 people were killed and more than 100 others were injured, the majority of whom are in intensive care. France is among several European nations treating some of the victims. FSN's Ross Cullen reports.
People who suffered burns in the fatal fire are being looked after in hospitals in Paris and in Lyon, where France's top plastic surgeons are on standby to assist with specialist reconstructive care for burns victims. French citizens were among those injured, and there are still French nationals missing, with several Italians also unaccounted for. Police are working to identify all the victims and investigate how the fire started. It broke out in the Constellation Bar in the Swiss ski resort of Crans-Montana in the early hours of New Year's Day.
Senior Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed building a new high-security prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. FSN's Blake Sifton reports from Tel Aviv.
A delegation led by the Deputy Commissioner of Israel's Prison Service visited a crocodile farm on Thursday to learn about crocodile care and handling. Last week, far-right National Security Minister Ben-Gvir proposed building a new detention facility surrounded by crocodiles to hold Palestinian prisoners jailed for security offenses. He suggested the plan would prevent escapes and act as a deterrent, and said it was inspired by the Alligator Alcatraz detention facility in the Florida Everglades.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today in more detail at the very welcome development that wild salmon have been seen for the first time since 2015 in 3 English rivers, the Mersey, the Bollin and the Goyt, returning to those waters in Britain's gritty northwest, meaning they have made it all the way from the Arctic Circle to spawn in the river's gravel beds. The actor James Murray is the deputy chair of River Action and has campaigned for British rivers and wild salmon specifically.
What it says to me is there is hope. If you clean up these rivers, if you let them return to levels of health that they should be, then the salmon will return. They're very resilient canary in the coal mine keynote species that will show you that your rivers are in good health by living there. And we need it not just to be a local good news story, it needs to be a national good news story. This species is endangered. It was on the red list from 2023. We need to take it off the red list and make it abundant again in its returning numbers, as it was pre-industrial revolution, and as it could be again, as these rivers in the northwest have shown us.
Sir David Attenborough has long argued that waterways and oceans can return to life in a short space of time, given focus and environmental commitment. And in the northwest of England at least, the salmon are bearing that out.
And a recap of today's headlines. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles are to blame for the blaze. Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed a new prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. That's Feature Story News. Tony Waterman reporting.
Like many young inner-city students, Chicago area high school sophomore Brandy Perkins struggles every day to motivate her teachers. The frustrated 16-year-old talked to Onion reporters this morning to discuss the challenges she faces in reaching out to her underperforming educators.
Connecting with the teachers gets harder and harder every year. We all come in every morning eager to learn, but most of the teachers just seem completely uninterested in education. One of my teachers, Miss Manley, has been particularly hard to work with. She was quiet at first, but she showed some potential. I thought maybe she just needed a little time to come out of her shell, but as the weeks went by, she just sat there listlessly at her desk, never talking or participating. It just makes you feel so helpless.
For more on this story, check this week's Onion Review.
This is the Onion News Network.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. That number is so you can call in with whatever's on your mind. You have a question, you just want to make one little statement, that's fine, or you can have a whole conversation with us. You can change the subject, you can tell us we're wrong. It's up to you. It's Free Talk Live, and that's the whole point of Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160. And with you on Free Talk Live, you've got me, Bonnie,
Mr. Penguin,
and Angelo.
And so in the last segment, we were talking to Sarah, who is a communist, an open communist, about the war in Venezuela, or the possible war, whatever you want to call it. That was a whole other discussion, but and Mr. Penguin was trying to go back and forth with Sarah on the idea that Sarah says it's not okay that we go to war against Venezuela because of the whole situation where ExxonMobil and other companies got stolen from by Chavez. I think it was Chavez, right? Either way, Sarah says that's not okay because the government of of Venezuela should be able to socialize anything at any time to make schools. And Chris wanted to explain his side of why it's actually not okay.
Yeah,
for us to go to war over that.
It's not. Yeah, it's basically not okay. So I am not saying that it wouldn't be right for the people of Venezuela to, rise up against their awful government, right? Their awful communist government, right? That's fine. It's not for us to do, though, to go and take out their leadership.
I agree.
And the justification is effectively that some investors in the United States, so basically U.S. oil companies, in the 60s, I'm guessing. I
think it was the 70s.
70s. Anyway.
We looked it up last week now.
Doesn't really matter. Point was, quite a while ago at this point, invested in...
Oh, that means it wouldn't be Chavez. Sorry, I'm going to Google who it was so I don't get that wrong.
Sure, go for it. So they invested in Venezuela. Now, the thing with investing is whenever you make an investment, there's some amount of risk that you're taking on. And if you're investing in an unstable country or in a country that doesn't have a good track record when it comes to, Western style capitalism, you are particularly putting yourself at risk of the government coming in and saying, we're going to take it. We're going to take everything.
And I just want to clarify that Mr. Penguin said to me, he's not saying that makes it right that the government would take from ExxonMobil.
Nope.
He's saying it makes it, well, those people did a dumb investment, and is protecting your dumb investment worth going to war over?
Yeah, yeah. Basically, it's that risk was on those investors. Those investors didn't have to invest in that country. They could have invested in a different country. But the point is, it's on them.
We're always bailing out companies, including going to war for them.
Well, that's because the companies
Hugo Chavez was president. Sorry,
millions into the politicians to take the assets of the U.S. government and use it for the benefit of the companies. That's why they invest so heavily, hundreds of millions of dollars in lobbying so they can get their sway.
Sure. So let me keep going. So what I'm trying to say is that the United States does the same kind of thing all the time. Okay. Your income, for example, they tax it. They take, 90% of it, more or less through various different types of taxes. Now, Venezuela, the communists, right, got into power and they said, well, we're just going to take everything. What is everything? That means it's 100% tax, basically, right? And so it's, in some sense, it's not that different than, the United States, doing the same kinds of things. I'm not trying to justify what the communists did in Venezuela, just as I'm not trying to justify, what, Trump and Obama and, other politicians in the U.S. do all the time.
Okay, so
it's theft, whether it's, Chavez doing it or it's, Trump doing it or some other politician.
There's something we're getting wrong in the timeline here, because Hugo Chavez was president when ExxonMobil got their stuff taken from them, according to the internet, and it happened in around 2007, the nationalization and making ExxonMobil leave the country, and Hugo Chavez was president. But I remember there was something we said about the 1970s last week.
It predates that. I just don't
So
know.
is this just another instance of it happening?
So
it's probably what it is.
So here's the thing. It could be that they took some percentage or violated some contracts prior to that, and they just basically finalized taking everything, under Chavez, right? I don't know. You'd have to try and find the details, but I'm pretty sure that it goes back further.
It says no U.S. president. No, oh my God! They always think I'm saying U.S. president every time I say what president.
It could also be that maybe the communism taking over goes back further, and the oil stuff only happened later. But
it says that Venezuelan President Carlos Andrés Perez oversaw the nationalization of the country's oil in 1976, bringing foreign-owned assets, including those of U.S. companies like Exxon, Gulf, and Mobil, under state control. A move often described as seizing or expropriating assets. So the 2007 one was something else. I don't understand unless
I don't know either.
Google's got it wrong, which is totally possible.
I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. But it's not impossible that they maybe didn't seize or nationalize everything.
No, this is from the 2000s. I have it right here. ConocoPhillips arbitration from 2019. An international arbitration tribunal ordered Venezuela to pay ConocoPhillips $8.7 billion for unlawfully expropriating its investments in the 2000s.
I know what happened. Yeah, so it's what they did was they nationalized in 1970 something. So they seized it in 1976, but the ruling didn't occur until 2007.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, in regards to that, because it was an international tribunal.
Because I was like, ExxonMobil went back and did more business with them and got it taken in 2007. That'd be crazy.
This is from 2019. Is this?
Yeah, but that's just when the arbitration, when the...
Oh, I guess when it finalized.
Yeah. That sounds like a really crazy long time. There might be something we're missing here. But I just wanted listeners to know what Penguin told me on the break, that he's not saying that it's right what the government did. I was trying to ask him what was right, but he wasn't thinking that's what I was asking. He was trying to think, well, you were I was asking you, what the government was doing, was that right? And you were saying it wasn't right, but it was expected. And I was like, well, then that doesn't change anything. It does change one thing. We shouldn't be going to war over something that a company made a risky move and they lost money.
Yeah.
Another company can take control. There's plenty of oil in the country, our country
basically
even.
bailing out. What we're doing by going
Bailing
to war
out.
with Venezuela or taking out their leader is, we're basically. What was the word I was using?
Bailing out?
We're basically bailing out banks all over again, or bailing out investors, or bailing out the housing industry, right? That's what we're
But
doing.
this time it's an oil company or multiple.
Yeah, right, exactly. Now, the means of which we're bailing them out may be, spending money on the military to invade Venezuela.
Yep.
But nonetheless, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. If in fact what Trump is saying, if we're to believe what Trump is saying, and that is the reason that we took out Chavez is because of the oil, and we're going to take over Venezuela. If that's his motives anyway, then yeah.
Yep.
I mean, obviously there was the lies about the drugs.
That was a lie. I think for sure. Honestly, I really believe that was a lie. Something I tweeted the other day was.
I mean, nobody believed it. I don't think in the first place prior to.
Lots of Americans, especially
not Chavez,
MAGA.
Maduro.
Oh yeah, Maduro. Lots of MAGA Americans do believe the Chinese are in Venezuela. Could be true, and they're forcing fentanyl on our streets and stuff like that. And then they also believe the United States cares and the United States wants to go kill people, and they also believe that that's a better way to do it.
The Chinese were literally in Venezuela when we caught Maduro.
What do you mean by that?
There was a bunch of Chinese officials.
I believe that there was Chinese there. I believe it.
There's no
no, there was a bunch of Chinese officials there to meet with Maduro that day.
But
they flew in the night before.
Oh, they
and
weren't
then that
staying
morning,
there. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, Chinese diplomats were in Venezuela ready to meet with Maduro.
But do you believe that
the night
President
before.
Trump, this is all the things you have to believe. Do you believe that President Trump is going to war against Venezuela, even in part to get fentanyl off our streets?
No, because fentanyl goes to Mexico and gets manufactured there and then shipped onto the United States. It doesn't go to Venezuela, get manufactured there, and
any
then shipped to
drugs,
the United States.
maybe not specific to
There's some amount
fentanyl.
of drugs that come through Venezuela, but it's insignificant relative to the drugs come through Mexico
Or Colombia.
Yeah. Well, right, but they usually travel through.
That's another thing that confused
Mexico.
people.
Yeah.
That's another thing that confused people is whenever you hear of the conversation around, drugs coming from South America and Central America, you always hear about Colombia and Mexico, and Trump even on the campaign trail was talking about China's got manufacturing plants for fentanyl in Mexico. And then all of a sudden it's Venezuela. It seems like it's at the very least, the least we can say is that Venezuela isn't the top dog for getting drugs into the country.
It's a transit point is what it is.
Wouldn't it be harder?
Mexico is both a transit point and manufacturing. And they're importing the fentanyl from China. So China is the one who's manufacturing the fentanyl, from what I understand.
Or precursor chemicals.
I'm sorry,
whatever.
you're actually correct. It's the precursor chemicals that then get shipped into Mexico. Mexico then manufactures the drugs, and then those drugs get sent onward to the United States. And I think to some small degree, some of this is heading towards Europe as well. But it's
from South America and Central America?
I think Venezuela and probably Mexico as well. But yeah.
Oh, I just think, wouldn't it be harder to smuggle drugs into a country that has sanctioned, from a country that has a ton of sanctions on it? Wouldn't it be harder to get stuff from Venezuela into America because we don't do business with them? So, if you're trying to move a massive amount of drugs.
I don't think this is necessarily the case because they're not exactly doing it legally, right? They're not sending it through customs. Yeah, so it's all.
Yeah, I guess they are. Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter whether it's sanctions exist or not.
Well, I mean, if you're smuggling it through a port of entry, in a cargo container of fake stuff, how you're getting, you just put a fake flag on it, I guess.
So we have to back up and explain what sanctions are and what what the sanctions do exactly. So just because a country is sanctioned doesn't mean that there's no trade that goes on. It just means that certain items might be prohibited from import from a certain company, or in the case of Venezuela is sanctioned, but it's not all of their oil. It's only certain oil from certain companies. So there's a legal, as far as the U.S. is concerned, they consider some of that oil to be legal trade and some of it to be sanctioned trade.
I got it.
So yeah, it's confusing, but and that goes back to even countries that are sanctioned Usually it's only some stuff that's sanctioned. So as far as like smuggling stuff into the United States, it could be that they're using some sort of cargo ships between Venezuela and the United States to smuggle stuff still, because again, not everything is sanctioned. I don't know what kind of trade goes on between Venezuela and the United States. I kind of suspect there's not a whole lot going on, but I don't know. I know like a decade ago there was oil coming from, I believe, Venezuela to the United States. But again, this was like a decade ago now, so that's probably not happening more recently, I'm thinking.
Well, we have another interesting story if you guys want to maybe talk about another front of the Venezuela stuff, because it is connected still. It says, Israeli military ordered to prepare for war on all fronts amid Iranian protests. I don't know if it's related. I think there are people online saying that there is evidence that when Netanyahu was here like 2 days ago, he told Trump to do the Maduro thing. Have you guys heard of this?
Yeah, he probably did.
I that's the thing. I didn't look into what's the evidence. I was like, he probably did, but I'm not saying I believe it.
What's the rationale for?
Because Iran and Venezuela wanted to do business.
Because Venezuela had no central bank at all, right?
Yeah. Well, they had like a central bank, but it wasn't tied to like. It's not tied to the city of London, like that central bank.
What is it called? The World Bank? Is that what I'm thinking of?
Yeah, there is the World Bank. I think there's two different organizations actually, similar to the World Bank though. They loan money to countries and things of that nature. So the country itself has a central bank of some kind. It must, because remember they set the the rates, exchange rates.
IMF
basically?
Is what I'm thinking of. IMF and the World Bank group.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So one of those was they didn't do anything with Venezuela, and they want to with every country, right? The country can have its own central bank of Venezuela.
Well, central banks are separate from those anyway. So.
Yeah, so my bad. It wasn't that they didn't have a central bank. It's that they only had their central bank and they didn't do business with the IMF, or it was either the IMF or the World Bank. Is that what you understand?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, those
it was on those listed countries, like as of like 2000, there was a list of countries that was excluded outside of that like hegemony. And in the past 30 years, we've taken out all of those countries.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure specifically in regards to this, but I do know that they usually are the country that comes in and like sort of bails other country, or sorry, they're not a country. They're an organization that goes in and bails countries out. They give loans, nations loans. For example, like I'm trying to think, not Venezuela. What's the one with the prisons that the U.S. is sending to?
El Salvador.
Honduras. Oh no, El Salvador. You're right.
El Salvador. So El Salvador, for example, I believe was denied. Do you remember when they did the Bitcoin thing?
Yeah, they still are trying to do Bitcoin City.
Right. So they were.
It might be successful. I don't know.
They're a very poor country, and they basically were investing their taxes into Bitcoin, and I don't know if it was the World Bank or the IMF, but either way, one of those two basically said, hey, we're not going to loan you money if you do this. And this is, they loan money to basically poor countries.
Well, I just Googled, does Venezuela do business with the IMF? And it says, no, Venezuela does not currently do regular business with the IMF. It has been largely cut off from IMF financing and formal engagement for nearly 2 decades. So the idea, like, walk with me for a second. I'm not saying I know this. The idea is that Israel is best friends with the IMF and tons of people who run it. We don't get to know their names, but the conspiracy theory is that they're, like, a lot of them are Jewish, and like Zionist Jews specifically. Like, by that I mean not like, oh, that's messed up, you're just talking about somebody's religion. No, I mean like they believe in creating
the Greater Israel Project.
Yeah,
that's been written about since the 1880s.
Which is Zionism, which
earlier.
Is separate than the religion even. It's people that go even further than that, and they want like the country of Israel to become very powerful.
They want to have it from like the Euphrates to the
they want to make it bigger, but they also want to
an expansionist
have
project.
World power. And the idea is that America went and invaded and tried to change the rulership of multiple different countries that didn't do business with the IMF before, and then after they did. And it's supposed to be like, oh, look how much better it is here now.
But if you look at Libya, there's like open air slave markets, and yeah, you can still buy people in Libya today, right now. Post us getting rid of Gaddafi, they didn't have slave markets with Gaddafi.
Just as a warning, people, don't bring your slave back to the United States. They'll arrest you.
Oh my gosh, Mr. Slave.
But yeah, that's what
a
that
South
didn't.
Park
You know,
character. I just realized you might have thought I meant like Mr. Penguin, Mr. Slave.
No. I got the.
Oh, okay,
reference,
good.
yeah.
But so people are saying, since the reason I'm saying this is really military ordered. Yesterday, Israeli military ordered to prepare for war on all fronts amid Iranian protests is like, that's what they've wanted for a long time. Now all of a sudden they're getting what they really want. They might be wanting Americans to go to war with Venezuela. That's kind of more of a conspiracy or whatever. Okay, I don't want to even say conspiracy. That's more of a guess from some people. But I want to get into all the other wars that are about to start. World War III, maybe. Israeli military ordered to prepare for war on all fronts amid Iranian protests. And it's from RT.com, so Russia Today. It's not American propaganda, though it may be Russian propaganda. A new long-term plan reportedly envisions a dramatic expansion of all IDF military activity, and IDF is, for listeners, the Israeli Defense Fund?
Force,
oh yeah. Including, I just kept reading IMF, so it's fun. Including weapons in outer space. The Israeli Defense Forces have been ordered to prepare for a possible simultaneous war against Iran, Lebanon, and the West Bank.
So wait, did they just reference Jewish space lasers?
No, yeah, that actually, there have been people making jokes about these articles.
That's crazy.
So I don't know about this specifically, but I do know that Israel has, I think, a pathway to its enemies, including Iran now, that it did not have before, because they took out some countries that was kind of went under. And in the process, they kind of took advantage of that to take out the weaponry, I guess.
In what area?
Somewhere between Israel and Iran, I think the corridor.
Because they were going in Syria and doing stuff like that, like trying to say that was to save Syrian Christians. Was it that?
It might be that.
I got to look up a map really fast.
They've also destabilized Iraq and Afghanistan, like other powers right around Iran.
But basically, the point that I'm trying to make is that Israel now has direct access to Iran, where in order to basically fight a war, where it didn't have easy access to Iran before, because it has to fly through one or another country, and the pathway to basically have fighting a war with Iran is now possible, whereas before,
yeah, Syria's right in that pathway.
Yep,
Iraq is right in the middle.
Israel doesn't have the power to fight back against Israel, because they basically have their government collapsed, I think, and then Israel took advantage of that to take out their military, basically.
Well, the Syrian military?
Yeah, I believe it's something.
No, the Syrian. We just installed a president of Syria, the new president of Syria. We used to be a leader of ISIS. But he's now with the hegemony, so he's cool.
I don't know the details. Like, I don't know exactly when. I want to say months.
Yeah, months ago. Well, I mean, but the Syrian civil war has been raging since like 2014 or something. 16. They've been fighting a long time.
Yeah,
There's been a lot. They've been fighting in Syria a long time.
I don't know. So you might be right about the U.S. instilling a leader in Syria, but Israel took.
He just visited the White House.
That might be Israel. What I'm trying to say is, either way, Israel took advantage of the situation to take out the military, basically, so that they could fly planes into Iran. And just because you have to remember, just because the U.S. instilled some dictator in Syria does not necessarily mean that Israel wants to be at the mercy of whatever puppet the U.S. installed, right?
Well, but it's not a U.S. installed puppet. It's an Israeli-U.S. joint task force that's installed this guy.
But if you want to ensure that whoever you put into power does not stop you from invading, say, Iran, the easiest and best way to ensure that, regardless of who ends up in power later, is to take out the military. And that's, as I understand, what Israel basically did.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's not like they didn't just... they didn't fully take it out. They just put it on their side. They're still like a Syrian military.
It sounds like they did both of those things.
Yeah.
Right. So whoever gets into power in Syria, after the Israeli installed dictator, gets removed, they still won't be able to stop Israel from, invading.
Yeah, because they've destabilized it.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with Libya. They got rid of Gaddafi, and whatever they tried to install in Libya fell apart. Hillary Clinton was a part of that, right? She was one of the orchestrators of destroying Libya. That was the whole Benghazi thing.
What's really creepy about this article is they're saying basically that Israel has been watching protests in Iran, where Iranians are protesting against their own government, and trying to use that. They're going to back certain protesters and start a war from inside of Iran.
Those protests aren't even naturally starting. I bet they're funded by us.
Israeli?
Well, not us, but
Israel?
Israel or the U.S., the agencies.
States funds Israel, and then Israel, that'd be basically quote-unquote us. More Free Talk Live coming up. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Tony Waterman. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go if peaceful protesters are killed in Iran amid nationwide unrest. He issued the warning in an early morning post to social media, saying the U.S. will come to the rescue of peaceful protesters. Mass demonstrations erupted a week ago in major cities like Tehran, but have since spread to smaller towns as citizens vent their frustration over the worsening economy. At least 6 people have been killed and 17 wounded. It's the biggest threat to Iran's government since 2022, when protests erupted over the death of a young woman who was arrested for allegedly not wearing her hijab correctly. In response to Trump's latest threat, Iran says it will not allow foreign interference in the country. Tensions between Tehran and Washington have intensified in recent weeks. Just on Monday, Trump said he'd order more strikes on Iran if it tries to rebuild its nuclear capabilities after the U.S. destroyed some sites in June. Swiss authorities continue to identify the victims of a deadly New Year's Eve nightclub fire. They say sparklers on champagne bottles held too closely to the ceiling are to blame for the blaze. At least 40 people were killed and more than 100 others were injured, the majority of whom are in intensive care. France is among several European nations treating some of the victims. FSN's Ross Cullen reports.
People who suffered burns in the fatal fire are being looked after in hospitals in Paris and in Lyon, where France's top plastic surgeons are on standby to assist with specialist reconstructive care for burns victims. French citizens were among those injured, and there are still French nationals missing, with several Italians also unaccounted for. Police are working to identify all the victims and investigate how the fire started. It broke out in the Constellation Bar in the Swiss ski resort of Crans-Montana in the early hours of New Year's Day.
Senior Israeli prison officials have visited a crocodile farm after a top official proposed building a new high-security prison surrounded by the deadly reptile. FSN's Blake Sifton reports from Tel Aviv.
A delegation led by the Deputy Commissioner of Israel's Prison Service visited a crocodile farm on Thursday to learn about crocodile care and handling. Last week, far-right National Security Minister Ben-Gvir proposed building a new detention facility surrounded by crocodiles to hold Palestinian prisoners jailed for security offenses. He suggested the plan would prevent escapes and act as a deterrent, and said it was inspired by the Alligator Alcatraz detention facility in the Florida Everglades.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, talk radio that you can control. That means that you can call 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160 to bring up whatever is on your mind. 603-283-6160. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, we've got me, Bonnie.
Mr. Penguin.
And Angelo.
And we've had all kinds of things to talk about. Definitely no shortage of things to talk about. But secession is always a favorite topic of at least Penguin and I.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
No, I'm down with secession. You all know about the state of Jefferson?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm a huge proponent of the state of Jefferson, man.
In Oregon? Is that Oregon exclusive?
Well, it's like Oregon, Northern California. Like
yeah.
way North California that people don't even know exists because there's like
it's
5 hours of California before you get to Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
Like from the border
state
of Oregon. So it's like it's just a section of...
Isn't it the third biggest?
Yeah, I think in the lower 48, it's the second biggest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Montana is like fourth, right?
Yeah, it's like third or fourth. Montana's huge too.
So California definitely so big
It's
that like all you
gigantic.
think of is Los Angeles.
But yeah, but
it's
there's
so much
been
bigger
a
than that.
movement in Oregon to make the 51st state the state of Jefferson since before I was born. And
I didn't know it was that old.
Yeah, it's a strong sentiment. We're tired of Portland and Sacramento ruining the lives of cattle ranchers and potato farmers. So they wanted to leave. And I was a big supporter of that. And I just don't think at this point we should just, exiting the union sounds more preferable.
Yeah, I want to say I don't think there's I can't imagine there'd be anybody on this co-hosting this show that's not a big fan of secession.
Yeah, I love secession. I think it's great.
Yeah, I don't know anybody on the show.
Yeah, I mean libertarians in general.
But I did get told by a libertarian, if not today, then it was yesterday. So they're from Russia. Maybe they feel they can't say anything, but let me just explain. They're from Russia, and they're one of those left libertarians that's like way more mad at Russia for the war in Ukraine than the Ukrainian government. They act like the Ukrainian government did no wrong, and it's not true. Like it's factually untrue, and it's
Weren't they like targeting Russian people, like Russian people in Ukraine?
So basically, in
for
2014,
being Russian.
I mean,
yes.
That's like targeted.
Definitely what the Russian government says. Putin's government says. So.
No, it's absolutely true that in 2014, the Donbass region and another one voted to leave, and Kiev
they did vote.
was shelling,
they did vote for secession,
bombing people in those regions to try to scare them into actually doing it, and that any person pro-secession should be against Kiev for doing that. And I'm not saying that means Russia did nothing wrong. That's what these people always think you're saying. People always think you're saying Russia's awesome and should definitely have attacked them.
But if the people voted to secede and join Russia and leave the Ukraine, then those people not make their own decision.
So this is what I said to him. I said, well, what if Texas voted to join Mexico? Not just secede, but secede and join Mexico. And Trump said no and started bombing Texans. Would you feel the same way? And all he could say, because he didn't want to answer that question, was, well, it's illegal to secede in the United States.
Retroactively done by Abraham Lincoln after the South had already seceded.
The activist judge in Texas v. White.
Somebody has to remind these people that the United States is literally a country only because of rebellion against the British Empire, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it was illegal under the British Empire when the United States was part of the British Empire, right? Before it was the United States, basically, it was illegal for us to secede, and we did.
Well, it's not even we united in secession, but we were all supposed to be our own country still, right? It was essentially the country of New York.
In multiple
It has its own
states-
constitution and its own set of rules.
That was after secession from the British Empire.
Yes, but then when we joined it as the with the Constitution and everything.
I understand. Yes, independent countries.
Yes.
Yeah. The United States was supposed to be independent countries.
A union of,
Yeah, in multiple, including, I know Rhode Island, I don't remember every other state, multiple states said, I'm not joining this, aka like signing the Constitution, unless you make it clear that we can leave. And I don't think they got good enough, they didn't get that written in stone anywhere, unfortunately.
Ultimately, the government the country that we have today was overthrown 7 years or so after, independence.
Why do you say 7 years?
Well, because the Articles of Confederation, right, fell apart.
Yeah, right.
And then we had the Whiskey Rebellion, and
Well,
like we had to reset the whole government like a couple times.
Long before the Whiskey Rebellion, the U.S. basically had formed one government, and then it was overthrown, and then a new government was formed. So.
No, but I don't think what I'm talking about when I said Rhode Island wanted to make sure they wouldn't join.
No, I think that was ratifying the current U.S.
Yeah,
Constitution.
I think that's what I'm trying to say. That it didn't have anything to do with the Articles. I know about the Articles of Confederation, how that stopped happening, and the Constitution became a new thing. But what I'm saying is I'm pretty sure that it was Rhode Island and like 2 other states. And they said, we're not sure we want to do this unless we're positive we'll be allowed to leave. So I'm trying to
because
Google
it was a contract, right? It was a contract between these nation states of agreeing to a certain set of
I was right.
of laws when it came to commerce, interstate commerce.
I think you guys are kind of over. How do I say this? You're giving it too much credibility. It was literally like a group of people that basically took over. They just came in and decided that we're going to take over the United States.
Wait, what are you talking about? What do you mean?
They just did it.
What do you mean by that? Like who?
Because it wasn't legal for them to do it.
Wait, what do you mean? Like, what exact thing was not legal, and who are you talking about when you're talking about a group of people?
Yeah, like who's they?
I can't name the names.
Like Hamilton, Franklin, or the people not
signed the Constitution? Because I mean, there is definitely, if you're going even deeper than that, yeah, there is an argument that like, what right did they have to put anybody under a Constitution? And I believe that, like, I believe the whole Spooner mindset, but without going that far. It's absolutely true that the people who ran Rhode Island, and there was also other states, but this isn't instantly answering that for me, and I don't feel like continuing to Google this. It
New
says
Hampshire
they resisted.
probably was.
I wanted to say that yesterday, but then I was like, oh wait, Rhode Island I think was the one in New England. I don't know though. I don't know.
Yeah, so let's see. I think the terms are Federalist versus
the Anti-Federalist. So like the Hamilton Papers, like because all those guys wrote the Federalist Papers. And the Anti-Federalist Papers, like those are founding fathers like documents. You can go,
yeah.
And that's kind of like their.
I don't, some of this stuff is sort of vague in my memory at the moment. I have to review, but
they got pressured under Congress and other states. Rhode Island finally called a convention because they were not going to call a convention.
They weren't even going to vote
themselves.
on it. Yeah, they weren't even going to talk about it until they knew they could
And that's why
leave.
they were the last to ratify. But the only thing that Google isn't quickly answering for me is like, what ended up happening that got them to say, okay, I feel safe enough to join now. I don't think they got enough assurance that they could leave whenever they wanted.
No, I think it was the Federalists took over what was the United States after independence. It was 7 years later or so.
Are you saying that those people were the people that became the people who created the
so like 7 years later,
so they formed our modern government basically.
Okay, but then they wrote the Constitution, right? Because 1787 would be 10 years after the formation of the United States in 1776.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So then it's just the Constitution is what they wrote.
Well, no, because remember originally when we declared independence from the British Empire, we were a bunch of countries basically. That was the first government, and then the second government.
Yeah, well, that was the Continental Congress, right? And didn't they absolve?
I think so.
Post-war, like after the war, or was
they didn't? That's the whole thing. It was just like it was a small group of individuals that
just didn't work.
That the Federalists that took over and formed the new government. Again, that's my understanding of it. If somebody has a different understanding of it,
well, I just thought like the Continental Congress happened, and then we had the Articles of Confederation.
So the Continental Congress was legal. What was not legal was
the Articles of Confederation or the Constitution.
The Articles of Confederation and the new Constitution.
Okay,
but the Articles of Confederation. Oh, never mind. I'm mixing those two up. No, I thought the Articles of Confederation was
prior to the Constitution.
Prior and a different thing that dissolved. Because those,
I think you might be right, but
and I think the Continental Congress is a third separate.
Government.
So you're saying these are all the same people, and you think it was all the same people with their multiple attempts? Is that what you're saying? Because like I could see that as
I think the second
theory.
The second government was basically the Federalist, because there was the Federalist versus Anti-Federalist, and originally there was we didn't have a federal government that was in total control of everything, right? We had independent countries that sort of worked alongside each other in order to form the U.S.
And that's kind of what led to the Articles of Confederation,
that
right?
The Federalists said that didn't work and it wasn't working well. So they basically decided we're just going to come in and we're going to take over and form a new government and we're not going to ask permission.
Well, wasn't that the whole idea of the checks and balances that they worked into the Constitution? Wasn't that how the Federalists explained it, at least, was that if we distributed enough of the power throughout the federal government, is that they could kind of keep an eye on each other and not consolidate too much power into one wing of it, right? That's why we had 3 separate ones, so like everyone's kind of watching each other at all times.
I'm learning something brand new over here.
I think that's the second government, right?
Basically, what I just learned from Google, and it's all Google, yes, because when you're doing a radio show and you don't know something off the top of your head, you have to Google it.
Yep.
I always thought that Rhode Island then decided, well, okay, we are going to join now that we've gotten some sort of assurance. No. They actually ended up joining because they got threatened. It says that what happened was economic pressure. The turning point came when Congress threatened to treat Rhode Island as a foreign entity, imposing tariffs on its goods, making continued separation economically unviable. And then facing potential economic warfare from the other 12 states and fearing reprisals, Rhode Island finally convened a ratifying constitution. That's bad.
Yeah. I mean,
it's been coercion since the jump.
But we do have a caller on the line, so I want to go to the phones. Anonymous caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Rich, I owe you an apology.
Okay, Rich isn't here, but you can apologize to him if you want, and he might hear it.
I'll take that back. I didn't know he was not in studio.
Okay. If you want to call back next Sunday, he'll be on Sunday.
Richie Rich, not not Rich Paul.
Oh yeah, Richie Rich, right? Richie Rich.
Is he in studio?
No, he'll be in here next Sunday though.
Forgive me.
That's fine. Anything else on your mind?
I think he hung up.
Yeah, something like. Oh yeah, he hung up. Yeah, that's.
Was that the guy who owes Rich money?
No,
Oh,
that's
okay.
not. Ricky. I don't know if I'd say he owes him money. I don't know.
Well, they made a bet.
Yeah.
They've made a bet.
But did it end? I don't know.
And yeah, I guess a second leg has ended and he hasn't been paid for the first leg still.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't know. Maybe people shouldn't make bets over the radio.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I was about to say the internet, and I was like, well, the radio.
Bets over radio seems like a bad idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that even... Can be considered legal?
That was too interesting. Like, would they be able to take it to court and win?
Well, no. I just mean, like, can you place bets like that on the radio? Isn't that kind of like a form of
gambling?
Gambling, yeah.
I don't know if that
we
runs-
just have like a...
Does that become gambling because it's not?
I guess our friendly wagers not considered.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
I think you're probably right. It's probably technically illegal.
Yeah, just because we're broadcasting it.
No,
I'm not going to point it out. I'm not going to point it out anymore.
I just thought about
I'm
that.
done talking about it.
I don't think it's. I think it's just outlawed. Period. Like you can't just. I think gambling, like when you have a game of poker, that's illegal. I think technically. I mean, it may not be enforced, but for the most part, but unless of course you're a politically.
Well, is it different from having a card game? Oh, I guess yeah. That would make. Well, poker rooms. I don't know if the house doesn't win any money. If there's like no house and it's all.
There somehow is legal ways to make bets in some way, so it might be covered.
Yeah, licensed.
Oh, yeah, there's
licenses for like like we have in Keene, we have
But when
like
it
a
costs
casino,
ever-
but like if you all
Casino
sat
type
down and
place.
consensually put your own money in, and there's like no house making money off of it.
technically illegal. I do believe.
I guess yeah, that'd be like a mafia card
as I
game,
understand
right?
it. Yeah.
Well, I'm just so interested in what he wanted to apologize to Richie Rich over, because I'm pretty sure that was James, the one who last week called and said like Ian's an idiot. I'm an idiot for marrying him, and he's skinny or whatever, and or like young or I don't remember what he said about him that was like weirdly insulting. He was
Called
like,
him a little boy. I think.
yeah, that's what it was. He was like a little boy. I was like, he's 45, but that was that guy. So I'm like super interested to know what would he be calling to apologize to any of us over. He never even apologized to Mark over threatening to like kill Mark and his family. That's the same guy.
Oh, that's the guy? Oh.
Okay, wait. I don't want to say yes, that's absolutely the guy, but somebody that we
Are
know.
you sure?
Somebody that we know that is absolutely sure, knows voices very well, and said that they are pretty sure that's the guy. Yeah, but he wouldn't tell us who he was last week.
Okay.
So there's that. And that person hadn't called since about 2021, as far as I know.
I was going to say, it's been a while, I think, since I've heard him.
Yeah, apparently Jerome called yesterday, too. I thought that was cool. I wasn't
called.
on.
Interesting. From New York, right?
No, Jerome is South Carolina. He's the one who loves to say, oh, I hate Trump. And he's trying to think. He always calls about hating Trump, and then Richie Rich says, Trump train, just to mess with him.
Gotcha.
Did he do it yesterday?
I think Riley did.
Oh, he did. That's funny. Oh, yeah, because Richie Rich wasn't on. I forgot. Well, anyways, I want to get into this story from the Daily Mail. Staten Island residents discussed plans to secede from New York City amid outrage in Deep Red Borough, which is Staten Island, over new socialist mayor. Residents of Staten Island have discussed renewed calls for secession from New York City after newly elected Mayor Zohran Mamdani visited the borough. Oh, I do want to go to the phones because we quickly got another call and we have maybe like 10 minutes left. Turd Ferguson from Pennsylvania, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Well, I think we should unban, starting in 2026, the greatest caller of Free Talk Live of all time, James Whittakind.
Wait, we should ban him? He's banned?
Yes, I believe so. I believe he's banned from calling the show.
I didn't know that.
We can unban him.
He calls in with a call that says anonymous.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, whenever he calls in, it says anonymous. So, and last week I told him that, and he was like, well, then you've blocked me. Maybe that's the case. Maybe Ian did something.
Usually the bans are temporary. They usually
he
expire
threatened
at
to
some
kill
point.
Mark and never, ever apologize for it.
I realize that, but I think I want to say Ian still allows them to call in, and maybe
honestly,
the ban was
I think he did too, because in 2011 or 2021, I meant to say, when I first got here, first started doing the show, I was here for calls from him, and I would just laugh because he said the most ridiculous, mean things. He'd be like, you pencil neck. I never heard that one before.
You never heard of pencil neck?
Not until then, and he
That's
was
like an
calling
old
in
man. Like that'd be like what you call a nerd back in the day.
So, Turd, why is he the greatest caller of all time? Why is James Whittakind the greatest caller of all time?
Because he's far and away the most entertaining, and I listen. I consume media to be entertained. Period.
I don't think he's the most entertaining. I can't say he is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe me,
know.
but aside from me, it's James Whittakind.
I like that you call in to have actual conversations, Turd. Definitely, like, as opposed to, like, Skeeter. He's just not trying to have a conversation. And you definitely say funny things.
Yeah, Skeeter's not even entertaining, though.
No, that's what I'm saying, not at all.
James Whittakind's highly entertaining. He's
last weekend when he was when he said, like, oh, I don't know why anyone would marry a child or whatever he said to me, was that entertaining? That wasn't that entertaining to me. It was like
James Whittakind called in last week?
Yeah. Was it last week exactly? And it was, I think, a Saturday.
Yeah, I got real weird for a second.
I wish I heard it. I didn't hear it.
Well, it's always up on the, like,
well, no,
SoundCloud,
we were talking about
messages.
Skeeter. And we were making fun of Skeeter on the low, and we said, he who shall not be named, as in Skeeter, because we didn't want him to call and go Skeeter mode. And then suddenly this guy calls out of the blue, and I thought it was Skeeter at first, and then he was like, you know who this is, Richie Rich? And I was like...
and Richie was like, no, I don't.
Yeah, we don't. We thought it was Skeeter this whole time, but I guess it was...
Did he say, don't you deserve to die like the Free Talk Lies troll you are? I love James Whittakind, dude. He's hilarious.
I don't remember him saying that.
Dude, he despises me. I'm probably the only person he hates more than Mark Edge, honestly.
It was Sunday, December 28th. Go back and listen to the last segment of the show.
Oh, it was
Sunday.
on my birthday. That must be why I wasn't listening. It was on my birthday.
Oh, yeah, it was. He did call. You were in the hot tub alone.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, yeah,
I remember this now.
Oh, yeah. Huh, that's weird, because I don't know. Man, I wish I'd heard it. I love James Whittakind. I think he's
wasn't
hilarious.
entertaining then. And then this was very strange. Just, I have an apology for you, Rich. And we're like, Richie Rich or Rich Paul? And he's just like, he's not there. And he hangs up. That's not entertaining.
No,
at least have more to say.
There's no way that was him, though. There's no way that was James Whittakind. I would know.
Somebody that knows his voice said it was him last week, so I think it was.
I can't keep track of the callers. a good percentage of the people who call in are just nuts.
Yeah, but some people are way better
If you're
at
not nuts,
recognizing
please
voices.
call in because, man, oh my
I
God.
know. I love it whenever somebody calls in and they're like, hey, don't call that much, but I just have something to say, and they're like totally normal, awesome person. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen
Like
often.
Uber George.
Listen, you can be.
I always tell them to call in.
You can be a little bit crazy, be on the, be a left wing supporter. That's fine. Call in, right?
Right.
Just
in fact, we can at
have
least
a
have
conversation
conversations
with
with
us.
Sarah.
Yeah,
Like, she doesn't get offended by anything.
Nope. Conversations with Sarah.
She knows everybody
She's
in her
very
town.
stoic. I will give that to Sarah. She
That's
does
definitely
not
true.
let anything get to her.
A lot of it goes in one ear and goes out the other with her, but
Yes.
still, yeah.
Honestly, you only get one call a night. I'm just going to call to ask. I just want to let you defend your name. I'm just wondering, is this James?
Maybe you have below average IQ, but you're right on that one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I have a below average IQ, but I'm right that you are James. Okay, so it is James.
I only merely listen to you to know that's a fact. But I called in because your station perpetuated a ridiculous lie about, speaking of the FBI that you seem to have a low opinion of.
Yes.
But Mark has such a high opinion of them that he had them knock on my own brother's front door looking for me when all they had to do was call me, and within 15 seconds, they knew that grotesque lie you have repeated. If I had a Bitcoin for every time I've heard I threatened Mark Edgington and his...
Take someone to court then. Prove that you didn't say it. Because, I mean, it's recorded.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally, you could go back into the archive and listen to the shows.
I really doubt that Mark is just saying it. I didn't hear the call myself, but Mark told me you said it. And schizophrenic people don't always remember what they've said before. Oh, he hung up. Did you get to hear that, Turd? It genuinely was James.
Oh, yeah, that was definitely James Whittakind. Holy crap, that was amazing.
It's like the Return of the Dark Knight, dude.
He's calling in.
Huh?
The Return of the Dark Knight.
Yeah,
Batman Returns.
Well, you only get one
Yeah.
call a night. Sorry, James, he hung up, and I'm not interested in talking to him. Apparently, Turd's really interested in it, but it's not that interesting to me. I mean, like, schizophrenic
Dude, he's
people
amazing.
aren't novel to me.
I don't know what's going on with him. I tried to call him a few weeks ago, and I don't know if he changed his number or he just blocked my phone number or what's going on, but I guess he's mad at me or something.
I thought you said he hates you, but you call him directly?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. So I mean, we've had some good conversations. They usually end though with like, well, Colin James, how would you like it if I showed up there in Shrewsbury, Pennsylvania, and murdered you? Or it usually ends with that. But the conversation's usually pretty funny though.
I think it's
Oh my God.
I think it's crazy that you would threaten somebody's 8-year-old's child.
Yeah.
I mean, but at
More
the
than
same,
crazy.
I think as a sort of a radio personality, we kind of have to be a little bit how do I say this? Kind of ignore the nonsense from people that are crazy and call us, but it's like it
used to be entertaining when we would answer Dustin from Kansas. Dust in from Kansas. Dust in the wind from Kansas. That was clearly what that was referenced to. It was sometimes entertaining. He would just say like the radio and the radio and the radio makes waves and waves are in the ocean and it would go on like that.
So oh man,
that
somebody
was
who's
way
actually
better.
crazy is nuts.
Right, but after a while, it's like don't let that go on for like 2 minutes.
Well,
you know,
yeah, you
maybe
can't sit there and like
5 seconds, 10 seconds, or 20 seconds.
You
even.
do want people to call in that are entertaining, but like
Yeah, well, at some point
That's
you're
more,
also
like,
just using
fascinating in a way.
like broken people for views too, kind of like
Yeah,
at some
that's a
point.
little mean, too.
Like
Sometimes I
Beetlejuice
feel-
in it, you know what? Yeah, he's a broken person. He's mentally ill.
Sometimes
so I'm
I
gonna
would
sit
feel bad
here
about it.
and let him be mentally ill to the world and use him for like yucks can feel kind of gross.
But it's so crazy that his name was Dustin from Kansas. Like that was clearly not his real name.
Well, probably not.
But like he couldn't seem to. He had to be if that was real and not. I don't know, AI before its time, or somebody pranking us. Then that person couldn't have possibly been like living on his own. You know what I mean?
No, he probably lived with his mom or something.
Yeah, that's pretty sad. And it sounded weird. He has a very like normal person, like almost like I can hold a job type of voice. Does that make sense? Do you get what I mean? Turd? Do you agree? Do you remember Dustin?
I don't know who Dustin is.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea who he is. I don't.
Oh, sorry, Turd. I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought he was gonna just end it at that.
I think
But
the show's over at this point.
the show was over. So more Free Talk Live at freetalklive.com. Thanks for listening. We're live every weekend, and peace.